1,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa 295,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title deeds. By that I mean kama ni plot number 1 iko na title deed yake, and we do title deed at zero cost. Once you complete your payment, tunakufanyia title deed transfer. We have daily site visits kuja kuona shamba at 10 AM and 2 PM. Ofisi yetu iko pale Kitengela Muigai after building second floor. What are you waiting for? The time to invest is right now, and the way to invest is by coming for our site visit. Book today our site visit and explore this amazing project. As you can see, this is one of our clients mwenye tayari ashajenga. You too can be a part of this amazing neighborhood. Visit us today and enjoy this amazing facility. Thank you. Hello dear investors, how are you?
To KCF 7, located 15 kilometers off the Namanga Highway and 2.5 kilometers from the KCA ongoing project. Our 50 by 100 plots go for 450,000 shillings. We have flexible payment terms in which you can pay a 10% deposit and clear the balance in 12 months, or you can pay cash and you can get a 20,000 discount. All our plots have ready title deeds. We are located at a further building in Muigai, second floor. You can come visit us. We also do daily site visits.
Namu jambo mahali popote ulipo, welcome back tufunge wiki pamoja ndani ya Top Premier Morning Breakfast Show. Leo ni TBT edition ukiwa na Mwadon Mwadon, na good morning mahali popote ulipo. Ukiwa hapa unapotupata ukiwa hapa ni Top Premier Media, the hub of authentic vibes. Ama ukipendeza zaidi ni kitovu cha mitemo halisi. Hapo ndani ya Top Premier Media nilikwambia kwamba hapa ndipo tunazungumzia ambayo yamejiri nchini. Hapa ndipo tunazungumzia ambayo yameweza kufanyika kwenye serikali, ambayo yamefanyika kwenye biashara, ambayo pia yamefanyika kwenye education sector, ambayo imefanyika kwenye transport sector and all those sectors. Na tunasema kwamba ndani ya Top Media ndipo tunasema kwamba we are having a lot of something to discuss today in our TBT edition, ama gumzo la zamani. Tupo na mambo ambayo tutaweza kuyazungumzia mahali hapa, na karibu kwa mikono yote miwili ndani ya Top Media. Ukiwa na Mwadon Mwadon, nilikwambia ni kwamba ni kijana ambaye anajua kwamba mganga na upo wali mkavu, mkitaka cha mvunguni ni shati ainame. Ukitaka cha kufanikiwa maishani lazima uweze kung'ang'ana. Ukitaka kufanikiwa maishani lazima uweze kuendelea mbele na uweze kujikaza, ama kujikaza kisabuni, kama maybe kwa sehemu wa Kiswahili. Lazima uweze kujikaza kisabuni ili tuweze kujua ni magani ambayo wewe yatakuja kwenye njia zako. Kwa hivyo ndani ya Top Media leo tuna mambo ambayo kadha tutaweza kuyazungumzia. Ndani ya Top Media leo tunaangazia maybe ambayo yamefanyika au wachapishaji wa magazeti wameweza kuyachapisha pale, ambayo ni yanatuhusu sisi, ambayo yanatu affect pia negatively and positively. Ndani ya Top Media pia leo tutakuwa na tunaangazia mambo ambayo maybe yameweza kuwa yakitrend pale mitandaoni, kama nilivyokuwa naangazia na nikayaona maybe ya Machakos. Pia tutakuwa tunaangazia hapa tutakuwa tunaangazia pia mambo kadha kama nimeweza kuona His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua tour yake huko USA au kwa Amerika imeweza kukamilika, na amesema kwamba hivi karibuni ataweza kurejea nchini, na amesema kwamba pia mkutano mwingine kama hiyo, amesema kwamba akona samani sana kwa wale ambao hawaja the states which alikuwa aweze kuzivisit, lakini kwa maana muda haupo kwenye upande wake na muda umeweza kuwaonyesha kisogo. Kasema kwamba because of the by elections ambazo zinatarajiwa kufanyika hapo mwezi wa 11 tarehe 3 kama sijakosea, ili aweze kurudi Kenya, waweze kupanga mikakati ya hizo kura, na hapo na kisha tuweze pia. Na akasema kwamba mkutano mwingine kama hiyo imeandaliwa mwaka ujao, kuanzia mwezi wa kwanza Januari, na ili waweze pia kuendelea na mazungumzo towards the 2027 general election. Na pia tukiangazia maybe pia kwa upande wa President William Ruto, pia anajikaza kisabuni pale tuliweza kuona wiki iliyopita kaliwalika mayouth pale State House, na pia kulikuwa na Youth International Day, pia aliweza kukutana na wao, aliweza kujibizana na wao na aliweza zungumza na wao, na akaweza kuahidi mambo kadha wa kadha, na akawaahidi mipango jinsi anavyo kusudia kuwainua na kuwatayarisha katika maisha yao, ili waweze kuwa wanaweza fanikiwa na wanaweza pata mambo madogo ambayo maybe yanaweza kuwa na wasumbua. Kwa hivyo ni mambo ambayo yameweza kuibua hisia kwenye, tukiangazia maybe kura ambazo zinatarajiwa zinatarajiwa mwaka wa 2027, tukijua ni nani atakaye chukua uongozi ili uweze kulinda taifa la Kenya na kuongoza taifa la Kenya kwa miaka mingine 5 hapo mwaka wa 2027. Kwa hivyo mimi sijui kwako ni wagani, lakini kwa hapo tunasema ya kwamba hii ni Top Prime Media, na nilikwambia kwamba ukipendeza sana kuweza kubuka wa services ama unapendeza zaidi na services zetu, nilikwambia kwamba Top Prime Media we offer the best services ever, na hapa ndipo tunakupatia services kama za photography, videography na pia live streaming at a very affordable prices depending on the event. We offer services kama kwa maybe funeral events, kwa rural shop ya podcast, maybe you have a podcast you want to start, there is a space for you here and very affordable prices. Kama ni political rallies, tupo papa tunakupatia hizo services. Kama pia weddings, tunakupatia hizo services pia tunakupa. Kwa hivyo ukipenda kubuka wa services, unaweza email unaweza tuma kwenye email yetu kwenye topprimemedia@gmail.com, topprimemedia@gmail.com. Pia unaweza angalia namba ambayo inazunguka hapo ama inakimbia hapo kwenye screen yako, uweze pia kuipiga ili uweze kubuka wa services, na pia sisi tutajitokeza ili kukupa yetu yote ama kukupa ambacho tutakuwa nacho. Kwa hivyo ndani ya Top Prime Media leo tunasema ya kwamba good morning and welcome, na karibu kwenye show ya leo, ambayo nimekuambia ni mimi wako Mwadon, ambaye ni kijana. Nimekuambia kwamba lazima anakukumbusha kwamba kama unataka kufanikiwa maishani, unang'ang'ana mpaka siku yenye utaifikia. Nilikwambia kwamba hiyo bright future lazima tuifikie pamoja. Ile inaitangwa bright future lazima tuiendee, na hiyo bright future lazima tuweze kuifikia pamoja. Nilikwambia ni kuinuana, nilikwambia ni kusupportiana, na nilikwambia ni kwamba lazima tusonge mbele pamoja. Ndani ya Top Prime Media, the hub of authentic vibes, lazima nikwambia kwamba kama hujasikia kwenye Top Prime Media, basi jua hujasikia kwa mitetemo. Kama hujasikia kwenye Top Prime Media, habari hujasikia kwenye Top Prime Media, ambapo nimekwambia ni mitetemo halisi, jua kwamba hujapata kuhisi huo mtetemo, hizo habari. Ndani ya Top Prime Media siku ya leo nasema kwamba welcome. Na je, umeamka? Na kama umeamka, asubuhi yako iko vipi? Bila shaka nilikwambia ukisikia sauti yangu jua kama Mungu ameninemesha. Ukisikia sauti yangu jua kama Mungu amenipa siku njema. Ukisikia sauti yangu jua kama Mungu amenipa siku mpya. Bila kutazama majaribu unalopitia, bila kutazama changamoto unazopitia, hatua ya kwanza, piga goti, mshukuru Mungu. Inuka na utambae. Inuka na hatimaye utasambaa. Kuteleza sio kuanguka. Inuka, ipo siku utang'aa. Good morning and jambo Kenya. Ikiwa ni tarehe 13, ni 13 ama ni 14 jameni? Tarehe 14 mwezi wa 8 mwaka ni 2025. Mwezi umefika katikati, mwezi unazidi kuisha, na mambo ambayo mengi yametendeka kwenye mwezi wa 8. Kumekuwa na ajali mingi sana, na kumekuwa na mambo ya kushtua, na tumekuwa pia tunaona mambo ambayo yanatendeka pale online. Tumekuwa tunayaangazia, tumekuwa tunayaona, tumekuwa mengine tunanyamazia, maana sio kila unalojibu. Nilikwambia kwamba siku moja nilikwambia sio chochote unafaa kujibu, kumbuka kuwa kimya pia ni jibu. Na ndipo mengine tumeyaona, mengine hatutayazungumzia, mengine tumeyaona, mengine hatutayaangazia sana. Tunaangazia tu yale ambayo yanatuhusu sisi na ambayo yanatufanikisha sisi kwenye maisha yetu. Kwa hivyo ndani ya Top Prime Media, ikiwa leo ni TBT edition, tunaweza wasiliana nasi kwenye mitandao ya kijamii, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Pia unaweza tuma ujumbe pale YouTube Top Prime Media. na pia unaweza tembelea tovuti yetu www.toprimedia.co.ke www.toprimedia.co.ke. Welcome, karibu kwa mikono yote miwili ili tuweze kusafiri kwa show ya leo pamoja na tuweze kuona tamati. Ikiwa ni saa 2 imekatika, ikiwa ni saa 3 imebaki dakika 11 saa za Afrika Mashariki, ndani ya Top Prime Media tunapata kombo la maji kisha tutarudi. Liwide wana mambo ambayo wanayo mambo mazuri, kisha tutayangazia utaangalia ambayo yanakuhusu wewe. Liwide wanakupenda sana na Liwide wako na mambo shwari yako.
Of course, nitakuuliza unataka shamba iko located wapi?
Yes, I sell land. Of course, I'll ask you what's your budget.
Yes, I sell land. Nitakuuliza unataka shamba gani? Residential ama commercial?
Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza utakuja site visit weekday ama weekend.
Yes, I sell land. Of course, I'll ask you what time is convenient for you, 10 a.m. or 2 p.m.
Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza unataka shamba size gani? Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza kama umemaliza kufanya research. Yes, I sell land. Nitakuuliza unalipa cash ama installment?
Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza utandika sell agreement siku gani?
You sell land.
Of course, nitakuuliza utakujia title deed lini?
Enterprises welcomes you to KCF 7, located 15 kilometers off the Namanga Highway and 2.5 kilometers from the KCA ongoing project. Our 50 by 100 plots go for 450.
Liwide Enterprises Limited. Are you looking for a ready-to-build 50 by 100 plots?
Then Vision Garden Phase 2, a place to be. It's strategically located 3.8 kilometers off Namanga Highway through KG University.
Each plot has its own freehold title deed. The price is inclusive of title deed transfer.
We offer free daily site visit at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
We are located in Kitengela, Moigai Estate, Efrata Building, 2nd floor.
Welcome to Liwide Enterprises Limited, a vision for your property.
Karibu tena mtazamaji wangu wa Top Prime Media Morning Breakfast Show. Na ningependa tuingie kwenye uchambuzi wa magazeti, na mkononi mwangu pia bila shaka niko na gazeti la The Standard, niko na gazeti ya Taifa Leo, niko na gazeti ya Daily Nation na pia niko na gazeti ya People's Daily. Lakini kabla tujaingia kwenye uchambuzi wa magazeti, hapo niliweza kuona hapo jana ambayo ni video ambayo imeweza kuleta social media kwa pale imeweza kutrend, imeweza kuleta hisia tofauti kwa wananchi, na ni video ambayo iliweza maybe wanahabari waliweza kuzunguka kwenye level 5 hospital Machakos, na waliweza kuizunguka na wakaonyesha picha na baadhi ya video ya hali ilivyo huko level 5 hospital. Na tunajua kwamba Wavinya Ndeti ndiye anayeongoza nchi ya Machakos, county ya Machakos, na pia kuna viongozi wengine pale, kuna kina senator, kuna the MPs wako pale, kuna ma MCs ambao pia wako pale kwenye uongozi wa Machakos. Tuliweza kuona kwamba video ambazo ziliweza kuwa zimenaswa pale zikionyesha vitanda hazina wagonjwa wengine hawana wahudumiwi, wako na kwenye they in pain but hakuna mmoja wa kuhudumia. Tukaona hali ya washrooms jinsi zilivyo, tukaona jinsi pale mahala pale jinsi palipo pachafu, na inaitwa level 5 hospital. Na ni mambo ambayo kweli tunajiuliza, je, kwani hakuna pesa za katika health sector? Kwani kwenye kaunti ya Machakos hakuna pesa ambazo maybe zimetengwa na kusemekana ya kwamba hizi zitakuwa zinalinda wagonjwa, zitakuwa zinahudumia wagonjwa, na zitakuwa zinaleta maybe the facilities needed ili tuweze kuweka level 5 hospital ya Machakos vizuri? Ni mambo ambayo yameweza kuleta, ni habari ambazo zimeweza kuleta hisia tofauti kwenye mitandao. Watu wengi wameikejeli ile hali ya hospitali kuu ya Machakos level 5 hospital, na nikaona ya kwamba wengine wananchi wa Machakos wameweza kuikana ile hali ilivyo ndani ya Machakos level 5. Wakasema ya kwamba hatuwezi kuwa na viongozi kama wale, ambapo maybe tunahitaji huduma kama hizi, na baadhi ya vitanda zilikuwa empty, na zilizokuwa na wagonjwa walivyokuwa wanaojiwa wakasema kwamba they are not getting the services, they are not, hakuna mtu wa kuangalia, na wapo pale pale katika maumivu. Na tunauliza kwamba hata kama ni uongozi, hata kama hatuwezi laumu uongozi sana, lakini wanadamu, ubinadamu uko wapi? Utu uko wapi? Na tunasema kwamba hiyo ni tabia ambayo tunaweza sema ni tabia hasi sana, wakati ambapo maybe wananchi wanahitaji huduma hawezi zipata. Kwa hivyo mambo kama hayo jameni, tuweze kuiangalia, tuweze kujua ya kwamba ni mambo ambayo sio hayapendezi kabisa. Ndani tukiangazia mengine kuhusu Chan, tuliweza kuona hapo Kenya imeweza kupigwa fine maana of the insecurities, and pia jinsi wa Kenya waliweza maybe kubehave during chance competitions, na fine yote imefika 10.5 million, ni mambo ambayo hayapendezi sana. Na waliweza hapo jana waliweza kuissue other alternatives, wakasema kwamba Kasarani only the 27,000 capacity will be allowed, na sio tena 46,000, na waliweza kuissue other guidelines ambapo watakuwa wanaweza kuangalia hizi mechi ambazo zitakuwa mechi ya Kenya na Zambia hapo Sunday kuanzia saa 9 za sasa Afrika Mashariki. Nasema kwamba Uhuru Park kutakuwa na television pale, mnaweza enda kuangalia mkiwa pale. Lucky Sama huko, hiyo ni Gomo area na ni behind Kasarani Stadium, unaweza kutizama hiyo mechi pale. Maana tu walisema kwamba kama hujaweza kuchukua tiketi yako online, jua ya kwamba no physical, there is no the hard copy ticket zitatumika tena, ni online, na already ni najua ziko sort out zote. Kwa hivyo pia Dadora Stadium itakuwa maybe itakuwa inawaletea mechi moja kwa moja. Utalii pia itakuwa inaleta mechi moja kwa moja, hapo ni Stima Club, na pia Jacaranda Grounds itakuwa inaleta mechi moja kwa moja kupitia television ambazo zimewekwa. Kibera DC Grounds pia itakuwa inaleta moja kwa moja ndani ya hiyo mechi ndani ya moja. Pia KBCB Channel 1 kwa wenye bado hawezi fikia hizi maeneo, la KCB Channel 1 itakuwa pia ina stream the game live kuanzia saa 9 za mchana hadi tamati ya game hiyo. Kwa hivyo haya ni kwenye channel, na tunaombea Harambee Stars ushindi kwenye mechi ambayo inakuja hapo Jumapili, na tunasema kwamba chukueni mamilioni yenu na msituaibishe. Na katika kundi la ba wanasema kwamba Tanzania wamekuwa number 1 kufikia quarter finals. Sisi tuko na mguu moja kwenye quarter finals. Acha tukishinda hili tutakuwa tumeingia kwenye quarter finals dhidi ya Zambia, na kisha tutakuwa tunaangazia ni nani tutakaye kukutana hapo mbeleni, nani tutakaye kutana maybe, na tuweze kuangalia nani atakuwa mbingwa wa CHAN 2025. Na niombi letu kama wa Kenya, tupatane na nyinyi Tanzania, tuangalia ni nani bingwa wa sporti. Sisi tumewachia muziki, lakini itabidi mtuachie mpira ni wetu, itabidi mtuachie kwenye magazeti moja kwa moja. Ukiwa na Mwadon Mwadon Top Prime Media, the hub of authentic vibes. Mkononi mwangu niko na gazeti la People's Daily, tuangazie ambayo yameweza kuchapishwa pale, na wachapishaji wa People's Daily wanasema kwamba the top headline wanasema kwamba impunity, wanasema Trump red cards route over Gen Z killings. Wanasema kwamba in what could widen a diplomatic rift with the US, a report reveals that the Kenyan government committed arbitrary or unlawful killings, particularly during the Gen Z demonstration. Ukurasa wa 4 iko na habari zaidi. Unasema kwamba Ruto ako kwenye ile red line, ama kwa karibu, maybe kwa mpira tunasema kuna yellow card na red card. Wanasema kwamba Ruto anaweza baniwa kufika kwenda kusafiri ama kusafiri kwenda US, kwa kuwa wanapoziangalia wanasema there is an impunity whereby the police and have been, of which maybe they are termed as the government, has been, wamekuwa wanaua majenzi during the maandamano maandamano ya 25th. They also June hii mwaka. Wamekuwa na hayo ni mambo ambayo yamekuwa yakitendeka na ni mambo ambayo hayapendezi kabisa. Wanasema kwamba is in the red line, ambapo anaweza pigwa maybe the red cards za Trump, aweze kuwa wezi safiri kwenda US tena. Na aliweza kuulizwa hapo wiki iliyopita na akasema kwamba hakuja kuzungumzia haya mambo maybe the extrajudicial killings ambayo yalikuwa yameweza kutaja kwenye Senate huko za America. Hakuweza kuyaangazia na hakuweza kuyazungumzia. China alizungumzia ni kwamba alisema ya kwamba is working on the partnership with China, Turkey and other countries. Waangalia ni vipi wanaweza inua maybe uchumi na wanaweza endeleza na waweze kuwa na more connections na Kenya ndani ya biashara na waweze kuinua economy ya Kenya. Na wanasema tukiacha hayo wanaangazia mengine devolution at 12. Wanasema Kenyans unfulfilled promises. Ukurasa ni wa 14 kwenye People's Daily. Wanasema kwamba tuliweza kuona devolution conference inaendelea na iliweza kufanyika hapo jana kama sijakosea. Naam, iliweza kufanyika hapo jana na huko mji Omabay. Na wanasema kwamba kuna mambo ambayo yaliweza they were promised to Kenyans, lakini bado hajaweza, they are not yet fulfilled. Kwa hivyo ni mambo ambayo yanaleta very wanaleta mwamsho kwenye siasa, ambapo wanasemanga kwamba kila wanapofanya campaign promises huwa zinakuanga tamu na huwa zinaongezeka, lakini kwa haya yote ambayo yameweza kuahidiwa bado hajaweza kufanya nini, hawajaweza kutimizwa. Kwa hivyo haya kwenye gazeti ya People's Daily. Ukiona pale kuna tamasha ambazo maybe utaona President Ruto pale picha lake akionekana ni kama ana dance wimbo fulani hapo. Kwa hivyo ni mambo ambayo kwenye People's Daily, na tunasema kwamba if maybe you are a leader and you promise, ensure that the people ni wao ambao wamekuajiri, ensure that umepromise ambayo wewe umeweza kuahidi. Na tukiangazia mengine ni kwamba all that you need to know about Chan. Haya ni kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Ni magani ambayo unafaa kujua kuhusu Chan, the standings right now and all the other things ambazo ziko pale kwenye juu ya Chan. Kuhusu fine utaipata pale, ambayo Kenya imeweza kupigwa kwa mechi ambazo zimekuwa zikifanyika. Mpaka sasa hii fine imefika 10 point, na ambazo ni that is a lot of loss with Kenyans to the Kenyans. Na pia tukiangazia mengine ambayo nitaangazia zaidi kwenye gazeti ya Taifa Leo, ni about the 400. Huyu jamaa aliweza kushinda milioni 424 kwenye SportPesa, na tutakuwa tunaangazia pale kwenye gazeti ya Taifa Leo. Tukienda kwenye gazeti la The Standard, wanasema kwamba no thank you Ruto. Na wanasema kwamba from Ghana to KNCHR, President Ruto's dreams job keep getting dumped. In just 2 years, 9 high-profile nominees have walked away from plum positions, commission chairmanship. The strings of rejection has fueled claims of sloppy venting, fear of association over the dwindling fortunes, tone deaf gender picks, and advisors asleep at the wheel, leaving the head of state embarrassed and scrabbling for replacements. Now wanasema kwamba ni kwenye ukurasa wa 4 habari zaidi. Wanasema kwamba kwa miaka 2 ambayo President Ruto ameweza kuwa kwenye kiti, wengi wameweza kuondoka kwenye chama yake ambayo ilikuwa UDA ambacho kilimchagua, na pia wakaweza kuacha kazi kwa hiari. Tukiona pia tulipokuwa tunaangalia the senior executive mwenye aliweza kuacha hivi juzi, the senior executive advisor economics aliweza kuacha kazi yake juzi, na wanasema kwamba ameachwa kwenye hali ya taharuki, ambapo hajui ataweza kureplace mwenye ameondoka na nani. Ni mambo ambayo yako kwenye
gazeti ya Standard wanasema kwamba kwa haya mambo amekuwa anawapatia kazi, then finally wanamdump akiwa kwenye position kama yeye president. Ni mambo ambayo yanaleta taharuki kwake, anashindwa nita replace na nani. Kwa hivyo ni mambo ambayo yako kwenye Taifa, kwenye Standard. Na tukiangazia mengine ni yale ambayo nimekusomea pia kwenye ambayo tutaangazia zaidi kwenye Taifa Leo, the 424 million Wonder Sport Pesa winner can do. Kwa hivyo ni mambo ambayo tutakuwa naangazia, aliweza kusema atafanyia pesa zake nini. Kwa hivyo kwenye gazeti ya Taifa Leo tutaangazia kwa kina. Tukurudi na tuangazie kwenye gazeti la Daily Nation. Na kabla ya Daily Nation tuliweza kuona hapo the Harambee Stars waliweza kuambiwa wakishinda dhidi ya Zambia, wanasema kwamba watapata mamilioni yao, watapata pesa zao 2.5 each. And also tukiangalia mambo ambayo waliweza kuahidiwa pale, na watu pia wanasema kwamba Zambia ni timu kidogo, lakini tunaombea because unasemanga kwamba football sio kama mechi zingine za maybe volleyball and all that. Football vitu zina change and all of a sudden lakini mnaidharau. Hapo jana tuliweza kuona pia Tottenham PSG ni timu kubwa, waliweza kuicharaza mabao mawili. Kwa hivyo football is unpredictable. Football inakuanga mambo hawezi yasema na hawezi yasema ya kesho, na hawezi maybe angazia ya kesho pale, unangojanga tu mechi iishe. After kuicha tutajua ya kwamba ni nani alikuwa mbingwa ama ni nani aliyekuwa na nguvu. Mwenye nguvu mpishe, lakini tutaangalia ni nani ako na nguvu kwa ile. Kwa hivyo kwenye gazeti ya Daily Nation wanasema kwamba US damning report of Kenyan's impunity. Ni mambo ambayo nimeweza kuangazia pale kwenye gazeti ya People's Daily, na picha ni ile ambayo imeweza kuwekwa pale, na kisha wanasema kwamba a report in US Department of State as a condemned Kenya's worsening human rights record, citing attacks on Kenya Kwanza administrators' critics, particularly during the last year's bloody anti-government protest. Ukipenda zaidi ni kwenye ukurasa wa 4 na ukurasa wa 5 kwenye gazeti ya Daily Nation. Ni mambo ambayo nilikuwa nimekuambia pale. Na tianganzia mengine ni our Harambee Stars could qualify for knockouts today. Yani mambo ambayo if hawataweza kushinda maybe wakikosa kwenda kwenye semi finals, kwenye quarter finals, ni mambo ambayo tutakuwa tunasema chani imetuondokea. Lakini tunaiombea ushindi na tunazidi kwa support ili waweze kuleta ushindi nyumbani. Kwa hivyo tukiachana na hayo, ili tuweze kuingia kwenye gazeti ya Taifa Leo, wanasema kwamba upinzani baridi bila Gachagua. Upinzani baridi samani bila Gachagua. Gachagua ameweza kusema kwamba anarudi kwenye by elections, na tumekuwa na moment of tunaweza sema kwamba ni moment of peace, moment of political imekuwa kidogo chini, politics. Wanasema kwamba bila Gachagua kwenye upinzani, wanasema kwamba kuna code, ni baridi kabisa. Wanasema kwamba kuna ile ladha ya maybe kura ama ya siasa. Wameweza kuweka picha ya Gachagua pale, wameweza pia kuweka picha ya Matiang'i, wameweza kuweka picha ya Kalonzo, wameweza kuweka picha pia ya Martha Karua. Na wanasema kwamba uchunguzi wagundua kuwa Kalonzo, Karua, Matiang'i na Wamalwa wameshindwa kumfikia Gachagua katika kuunda vikao vya nguvu vya kisiasa tangu Rigathi aelekee Amerika zaidi ya mwezi mmoja uliopita. Wanasema kwamba Gachagua kuna ile convincing power. Wanasema kwamba katika opposition na kwenye siasa za Kenya ako number 1 katika kuunda maybe vikao na wananchi, na anajua jinsi ya kuongea na kuzungumza na wananchi, na wanatokea kwenye maybe ya fulani ama
vikao vyake. Nasema kwamba bila yeye Gachagua maana pia tumeliweza kuona pia Kalonzo alikuwa na travel pia the same time after just Gachagua alikuwa travel na kumekuwa tuna ule utulivu kwenye siasa za Kenya. Tukiangazia mengine ni kwamba wanasema kwamba ambayo nilikuwa nimekuambia tutaangazia kwenye gazeti ya Taifa leo. Tukiangalia mengine wameweza kusema kwamba Amerika yashtumu Kenya tena. Ni mambo ambayo nimekusomea kwenye gazeti ambazo nimeweza kusomea, na mengine ni kwamba ambayo ni tofauti. Wanasema kwamba, lakini nilikuwa nimekuambia tukianza show ya leo, wanasema kwamba Kenya kulipa fine ya 10 million. Hii ni baada ya misbehaving hapa na pale, security breaches and all that. Watu kuruka kuangalia maybe mechi huko kwenye uwanja wa Kasarani. Ni mambo ambayo yameweza kuleta haya ama kuleta hii fine na cover kufikia 10 million. Ni ambayo nilikwambia tutaangazia ni kwamba jamaa mwenye aliweza kushinda 424 billion katika jackpot ya SportPesa aliweza kusema ya kwamba pesa yake yeye ataitumia. Aliweza kutoa mambo kadha ambayo ataifanyia pesa yake. Alisema ya kwamba ataweza kuweka borehole kwa kijiji yake, kwa familia. Na pia akasema kwamba anaweza wekeza kwenye nyumba, na pia akasema around 200 million anaweza around 1.8 million anaweza kuweka pia kwenye shule ambazo zina face a lot of maybe struggles katika kulisha wanafunzi na wanafunzi ambao wanaenda kwenye shule. Kwa hivyo ni mama ambayo yameweza kuangaziwa pale. Ukipenda zaidi utayaangazia kwenye ukurasa wa 4. Kwa hivyo ni mambo ambayo kwenye magazeti leo tunasema kwamba kwa hayo tunatia kikomo kwenye magazeti yetu ya leo, na ni mambo ambayo yamezidi kutendeka, ni vitu ambazo zinatendeka Kenya. Na wanasema kwamba hapo jana tuliweza kuona video moja ambayo iliweza kusirculate social media. Wakasema kwamba baada ya watu maybe the Gen Z kufika pale na wakasema kwamba wakafika pale State House, wakaruta kawaidi bodaboda, kawaidi tukutuka, kawaidi veriani, kawaidi mambo kadha ambayo yaliweza kuahidi pale kwa vijana. Nasema kwamba mimi najichukia sana kufika pale State House, maana nilipigwa picha nikiwa na motorbike na funguo zake, na baada ya hapo nikaambiwa ningoje kwenye gate. After kufika kwenye gate nikaambiwa na GSU nyumbani with a very commanding voice. Ni video ambayo imeweza kuzungumzwa la zamani, na mimi na John Mwadon at the app of Authentic Vibes hapa ni Top Prime Media. Unaweza keep in touch with us on social media platforms at Top Prime Media, ama utembelee tovuti yetu www.topprimemedia.co.ke. Mwenzangu Sandrine Ongonya atarejea na habari zaidi.
Of smart investments, Wekeza is here, and today I'm excited to introduce you to one of our hottest deals in KCA Phase 7 plots. This project is subdivided into 50 by 100, each going for 450,000 Kenyan shilling. You just need to pay a deposit of 45,000, then balance pay comfortably within 12 months. All these plots come with ready individual title deeds, give you full ownership security. And as you see, this area is well developed. We have all social amenities on site. We have electricity already on site. We have water, and just 800 meters from here we have the SGR Kapiti station. And not to forget the major growth of development of this area, which is the KCA University. It's located just 2 kilometers from here. That means your investment will appreciate faster than ever. Don't wait too long to invest. Book a site visit with us today. We are located in Kitengela, Mugai, Efrata building, 2nd floor.
Of course, nitakuuliza unataka shamba iko located wapi?
Yes, I sell land. Of course, I'll ask you what's your budget.
Yes, I sell land. Nitakuuliza unataka shamba gani? Residential ama commercial?
Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza utakuja visit weekday ama weekend.
Yes, I sell land. Of course, I'll ask you what time is convenient for you, 10 a.m. or 2 p.m.
Yes, I sell land. Of course nitakuuliza unataka shamba size gani. Yes, I sell land. Of course nitakuuliza kama unamalizia kufanya research. Yes, I sell land. Nitakuuliza unalipa cash ama installment.
Yes, I sell land. Of course nitakuuliza utaandika sell land kwenye siku gani.
We sell land.
Of course, tutakuuliza utakujia title deed lini.
Lewide Enterprises Limited presenting to you Vision Gardens Phase 2. This project is going for only 950,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa 295,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title deeds. By that I mean kama ni plot number 1 iko na title deed yake, and we do title deed at zero cost. Once you complete your
Very good morning to you and welcome to Top Prime Media News at 9. My name is Sentry Nogonyo. Let's have the headlines. Dwale warns public hospitals charging for outpatient services will be treated as crime scene. Garissa police nab woman stolen firearm, IDs and ammunition. CAF fines FKF 6.5 million shillings over Kasarani security breaches. Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Dwale has issued a stern warning to public health facilities charging for outpatient services, calling them crime scenes, if they defy President William Ruto's directive on free care. Speaking at Afya House in Nairobi this afternoon, Dwale said all outpatient services in public facilities, from dispensaries to level 4 hospitals, must be free, in line with the President's order. The move, aimed at easing the cost of living, has sparked both relief among citizens and concern over how it will be implemented. In Garissa County, police have arrested a woman in possession of firearms stolen during a violent robbery at Garissa Police Station on August 5th. The operation, led by the Deputy RCIO of the Northeastern region, targeted the Madogo area and led officers to the suspect's home in Bula Katasi Estate. There, police recovered a Glock pistol with 17 rounds of ammunition along with the complaint's wallet, ID cards, a Kenya Police Service appointment certificate, a military ID, a smoke jacket, police belt, and several swords. The suspect remains in custody as investigations continue ahead of arraignment in court. The Confederation of African Football has slapped the Football Kenya Federation with a fine of about 6.5 million shillings over safety and security lapses during the African Nations Championship Group A match between Kenya and Morocco at Kasarani Stadium. CAF has also warned that if Kenya fails to meet safety requirements, Harambee Stars' future matches could be moved to other venues. The continental body is urging FKF to step up security, deploy more personnel, and enforce road closures on match days. Well, thank you so much for tuning in for our news at 9. We will be back at 1 p.m. with more news. My name is Sentry Nogonyo.
We have flexible payment terms in which you can pay a 10% deposit and clear the balance in 12 months, or you can pay cash and you can get a 20,000 discount. All our plots have ready title deeds. We are located at a further building in Muigai, 2nd floor. You can come visit us. We also do daily site visits.
And 2 p.m. Ofisi yetu iko pale Kitengela Muigai Efata building, 2nd floor. What are you waiting for? The time to invest is right now, and the way to invest is by coming for a site visit. Book today our site visit and explore this amazing project. As you can see, this is one of our clients, mwenye tayari ashajenga. You too can be a part of this amazing neighborhood. Visit us today and enjoy this amazing facility. Thank you.
How are you today?
This is Leeward Enterprises Limited.
Are you looking for a ready-to-build 50 by 100 plot?
Then Vision Garden Phase 2, a place to be. It's strategically located 3.8 kilometers off Namanga Highway through KG University.
Each plot has its own freehold title deed. The price is inclusive of title deed transfer.
We offer free daily site visit at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
We are located in Kitengela, Moigai Estate, a fracture building, 2nd floor.
Welcome to Leeward Enterprises Limited, a vision for your property.
Hello, dear investors. How are you today?
This is Leeward Enterprises Limited.
Are you looking for a ready-to-build 50 by 100 plot?
Then Vision Garden Phase 2, a place to be. It's strategically located 3.8 kilometers off Namanga Highway through KG University.
Each plot has its own freehold title deed. The price is inclusive of title deed transfer.
We offer free daily site visit at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
We are located in Kitengela, Moigai Estate, a fracture building, 2nd floor.
Welcome to Leeward Enterprises Limited, a vision for your property.
Hello, dear investors. How are you today?
This is Leeward Enterprises Limited.
Are you looking for a ready-to-build 50 by 100 plot?
Then Vision Garden Phase 2, a place to be. It's strategically located 3.8 kilometers off Namanga Highway through KG University.
Each plot has its own freehold title deed. The price is inclusive of title deed transfer.
We offer
Karibu baada ya habari ambazo zimeweza kuleta kwako na mwanahabari wetu msomaji wa habari wetu Sandrine Ogonyo kwenye Top Prime Media Morning Breakfast Show. Na ikiwa ni saa 3 zimeweza kukatika dakika ngapi? Zimeweza kukatika dakika 21 saa za Afrika Mashariki ndani ya Top Prime Media kwenye ngumzo la zamani. Na leo ningependa tuzungumzie tuweze kucompare and contrast vyakula vya kitambo na vyakula ambazo zinatumika leo kwa siku za leo ambazo maybe ziko na nutrients ambazo zimeweza kuwekwa, zimeweza kuwa processed and all that. Na tukiangalia kwenye gumzo la siku ya leo, tukiangazia kwenye vyakula ambazo zilikuwa zinatumika huko kitambo, ambapo walikuwa na prefer kwenda shambani kukuwa na hizo kama ni arrowroot, kama ni cassavas and all, na zilikuwa ngatamu ambazo pia kwa leo zinatumika, na ni vyakula ambazo zilikuwa zinaweza ziko na ile zinaleta nutrition, ziko na zile zinaitangwa virutubisho ama za afya na vitu kama hizo. Na tukikuja kwa siku ya leo ambapo wanasema kwamba kuna watu wanapenda kutumia sana the processed food na vitu kama hizo ambazo ni vyakula ambazo kwa sasa zimekuwa improved na zikaekwa nutrients, maziwa ni processed, sio kama ile ya kitambo ambapo walikuwa wanatua na kamua wanachemsha na kunywa. Kwa leo unapata imewekwa some vitamins, imewekwa some vitu kama hizo zimeweza kuongezwa kwa ile maziwa ikakuwa processed. Mayai pia nilisikia kuna mayai ambayo maybe yanakuwa produced artificially, sio kama ile ya kutaga ya kuku. Wanasema pia kwamba tukizingatia pia ya vyakula vya kitambo ambapo walikuwa wanaenda tu shambani, wanatukula za vichakani, wanakula vyakula ambazo zilikuwa raw ama zilikuwa hazijaprocessiwa, hazijaweza kwa maana leo unaweza unapata time za kitambo kuko na vitu kama unasikia cakes, vitu kama hizo most zenye zilikuwa tu mikate na vitu kama hizo. Kwa hiyo ulikuwa unapata mayai inaweza processiwa kutoka kwa mayai na vitu zingine tupate cake, lakini kwa sasa, lakini kitambo ilikuwa kama ni mayai unakulekewa hivyo, kama ni chakula maybe boka kama zilikuwa zinaitwa vya kienyeji ambazo bado zinaitwa vya kienyeji, ulikuwa unapata zinaletwa zikiwa hivyo. Hata kwa sasa unapata kuna adiwa some nutrients so that ziweze kukaa kwa muda mrefu. Wengine size kuna refrigerators and all that, ambapo ulikuwa unapata Unapata kwa sasa vyakula haviwezi haribika, zinawekwa kwa fridge ili ziweze kuharibika. Kitambo hakukuwa na mambo kama hayo. Vitu ambazo zilikuwa zinatumika kwenye preservation of food, sasa unaona nyama inawekwa kwa fridge inakuwa fresh, inaweka vitu kama hizo. Kitambo ni kuanika kwa jua inakauka, sometimes wanarushia chumvi kama hiyo, na sijui nani alikuwa hiyo, na maana ukizingatia watu wa kitambo walikuwa na miaka mingi. Lakini unapata kwa sasa, maana kwa vyakula ambazo zilikuwa tunakula sana, unapata kwamba unaweza kudevelop some issues. Kitambo mafuta hayakuwa yanakuliwa mingi, maana vyakula mingi ambazo zilikuwa zinapikwa kama kidheri uhitaji kukaanga ama kuweka vitu kama hiyo, ni chumvi kukula. Vitu kama hizo, ugali hitaji kuwekwa mafuta. Vitu kama maragwe walikuwa sometimes wanaweka tu chumvi, kasupu wanakunywa. Vitu kama kwa hivyo unapata kwamba nikizingatia even umri ambapo saa umri umekuwa mchache sana, watu wanaanza kudevelop shida, magonjwa kwa sababu ya chakula ambazo zinakuliwa. Kwa sasa wana develop hizo challenges na hizo mambo, ama wana develop the challenges za mwili, magonjwa, wanaenda kunywa dawa. Ni mambo ambayo yaliweza kuwa yameletwa na chakula ambazo zinatumia. Na kwenye Top Prime Media siku leo tunasema kwamba ni vizuri tuziweze kuiangazia ambayo kukula ambacho kimeweza kuletwa kwenye meza, ama ambacho kimeweza kuinventiwa. Maana hata ukizingatia kwenye vyakula vya kitambo, ukikuzikula ziko na afya sana. Kazi yetu nilisema kwamba macho hayatawahi tosheka. Na kwenye macho ambapo hawaitocheka, ukiona kitu mpya unataka kuiendea, haujui hadi madini ambazo zimeweza kuwekwa pale. Na ndipo maana unaenda unasikia kwamba tulikula chakula fulani, all of a sudden unasikia chakula ambazo unakula ziko na sukari mingi, ziko na sukari mingi sana, na vitu ambazo na mambo kama hayo. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri sana tuweze kuiangazia mambo ambayo chakula ambacho tunaweza kukula, na tuweze pia kurudia vyakula vya zamani ambapo unapata ni tamu. For example, ukikula zile zinaitwa waru, ukikula sweet potatoes, ukikula the arrowroot, kama breakfast unakunywa tu na kacha yako pale, kahawa, vitu kama hizo, na zile kwanga very very sweet, na ni vyakula ambavyo viko na afya sana. Kwa hivyo ndani ya Top Prime Media siku ya leo tunasema kwamba vyakula tuzingatie sana, na kwenye gumzo la zamani tunasema kwamba vyakula vya zamani bado ziko at a high level, ambapo ziko na nutrients sawa, ziko na very original and natural nutrients ambazo zina generate from from the habitat and all that. Kwa hivyo vyakula vya zamani bado zimeweza kudhibitishwa kwamba ziko na nutrients kubwa, na the high percentage ni kwamba wewe ukikula zile za vyakula hautaweza kupatwa na virusi vya magonjwa fulani. Kwa hivyo mambo kama hayo tuweze kuyazingatia kwenye Top Prime Media, kwamba tunasema kwamba usiende chakula ambacho bado unakiona pale unasema I want to test everything, I want to do a new, maybe to test a new life and all that. Kwa hivyo ni vyakula ambavyo ni vitu ambavyo tunafaa kuzingatia sana. Maana nilikwambia kila siku tukikaa chini na tuweze kuiangazia mambo yote hatuwezi vizuri bila afya. Kwa hivyo mambo ambayo yanaweza kuaffect maybe afya yetu, tukiangazia hizo vyakula vya tulikuwa tunakaa chini tunakula kidheri na kuwa swafi sana, na tunasema hiyo chakula ni tamu. Kwa sasa upikie mtoto kidheri ikose kukaangwa, hapo hakuna chakula. Tukiangazia pia zamani ulikuwa unapata chakula zilikuwa zinaweza tunapika leo, tunakula tunakula usiku, tunakula mchana, inaisha. Kwa sasa unapata baby tunaweka kwa fridge, ambapo maybe we cannot trust it is not 99% safe or 100% safe. Inaweza kupata virus, maana there are also some bacteria who survive under low temperatures. Kwa hivyo mambo kama hayo tunaweza kuangazia. Ukiangazia pia kitambo kulikuwa mnakaa chini, chakula kimeandaliwa, mnakula pamoja. Hayo ni mambo ya zamani ambayo yalikuwa yanafanyika, na ulikuwa unapata kwamba chakula kikipikwa hamtakula maybe kikiwa kishakuwa baridi na mambo kama hayo. Kama ni kukula mnakula papa. Lakini kuna wale ambao maybe wao wanasema chakula moto mimi siwezi kula, kwa hivyo wanangoja lazima kiwe baridi. Na jinsi kinavyokuwa baridi, by the way, ndivyo kuna kuanga na bacteria ambazo huwa zinaingia. For example, when ukiona tu inzi haiwezi kutua kwenye chakula ambacho ni moto, lakini ambapo kikiendelea kuwa baridi, there are even some invisible bacteria, because ukiangalia even to the insects and all that, there are very very many invisible kwa macho yetu, hatuwezi ziona, ni very tiny. Na kwa hivyo chakula kinavyokuwa baridi ndivyo kinavyo zidi na zinakuwa kwenye hatari ya kuongeza maybe bacteria kwenye chakula yako. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri chakula kikuliwe kikiwa moto na all that. Kwa hivyo ni mama ambayo tunaangazia kwenye siku ya zalio na siku za kitambo. Kitambo ulikuwa unapata nyama ilikuwa inaweza mnaenda kichakani mnawinda na kisha mnarudi mnasema kwamba hiki ndicho chakula ambacho tunakula. Kwa sasa hii tunaenda butchery tunasema nikatie hii pande, na tujui even na wakati mwingine wakati mwingine mmoja aliniambia kwamba kama umeishi Nairobi na umenunua chakula ama nyama kwa butchery usiwahi sema hujawahi kula mbwa. Ni mambo ambayo yanafanyika, lakini ni vizuri sana tuweze kuinvestigate chakula ambazo tunakula. Usiende tu maana umeona tu nyama imewekwa pale kwenye butchery, lazima thibitisha kuwa ni nyama ambayo ni nyama ambayo inaweza kuliwa. Hatujasema kwamba maana wanasemanga ukikula kitu ambacho ujui wewe na kinaweza kudhuru na ujui na umekula bila kujua hakitakudhuru, lakini kama unajua kitakudhuru. Kwa hivyo lakini ni vizuri sana tuweze kuiangazia mambo ambayo tunafanya, chakula ambazo tunazikula, tuweze kuinvestigate ili tujue kwamba ni chakula ambacho kitaweza kutunufaisha. Na ndio maana watu wa kitambo walikuwa na they ate that good healthy. Magonjwa kama sukari zimekuja hivi karibuni. Maana kwa nini? Kwa maana chakula za kitambo zilikuwa pure natural. Acha hizi zinaenda process, kila kitu ambacho kinatoka mayai process, kila kitu kinatokea hapa mayai, maziwa process and all those things. Ndio maana unaweza kupata kuna madhara mengi kuhusu na kutokana na vyakula ambazo tunakula sasa hivi. Kwa hivyo kwenye gumzo la siku ya leo gumzo la zamani tunasema kwamba ni vizuri turudie vyakula vya zamani. Ni vizuri tuangalie we eat the food as natural as it is. Usipendezwe sana na kuenda maybe umeona tu nyama ile nyama inakuaga green pia unataka kukula hiyo nyama, you don't know. Kwa hivyo ni mama ambayo tunafaa kuiangazia sana. Kwa hivyo kwenye vyakula tuweze kuangazia sana kwenye gumzo la zamani. Tunasema kwamba vyakula vya zamani bado zina simama kwenye line ya kwanza ya kwamba ziko na nutrients ambazo ziko natural sana, natural. Kwa hivyo ndani ya Top Prime Media siku ya leo tunasema kwamba thank you for tuning in, thank you for being a part of our number one listener, thank you for being following us and viewing our stories. We really appreciate for that. Nikwambia tunainuka pamoja, tunasonga pamoja na tunaendea the brighter future pamoja. Na ndani ya Top Prime Media nimekwambia kwamba tuna services. If you want to book our services, you can the photography services, the videography services and also the live streaming services. Nimekwambia kwamba unaweza tutuma ujumbe wako kwenye email yetu topprimemedia@gmail.com. Pia unaweza tuma ujumbe wako mfupi kwenye unaweza piga nambari ya simu ambayo iko kwenye screen yako 0797088490 0797088490. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni namba ambayo unaweza tupata services zetu, unaweza book na unaweza ongea moja kwa moja na mhudumu katika Top Prime Media. Ndani ya Top Prime Media tunasema kwamba thank you so much, thank you for being number one listener, thank you for following our viewer, thank you for following us, thank you for tuning in to the morning breakfast show. Umekuwa na Mwadon ambaye nilikwambia kwamba ni kijana najua kwamba mganga na upo wali mkavu mtaka cha mvunguni shati ainame. Hadi siku nyingine mmajali wapo kesho ndani ya Interactive Friday na Mwadon kutoka mida saa 2 hadi mida saa 3:30 ndani ya Top Prime Media. I John Mwadon, I drop the mic.
Up of authentic vibes. Media, the app of authentic vibes. Top Prime 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 Media, the app of authentic vibes. Prime Media, the app of authentic vibes.
Hello fans, welcome to Prime Media Morning Breakfast Show. Nami John Mwadon. Hapa ndipo tunakutana naongea mambo ya siasa, hapa ndipo tunakutana naongea mambo ya biashara. We also speak about lifestyle. Welcome to Morning Breakfast Show. Nami John Mwadon. On Monday we have a blues Monday, where we speak about men. Tunawapongeza sana na tunawaambia congratulations men. Kama vile Harambee Stars imeshinda, tunawaambia congratulations. Tunawaambia jikaze. Tuesday we also meet on the Morning Breakfast Show, siku ya kuongea mambo ya afya, about health, because unajua kwamba hatuwezi kaa maisha bila kukuwa na afya njema. So on Tuesday we meet pale Morning Breakfast Show again, then we speak about health. On Wednesday hapo ndipo nao wanawake hawajatumiwa, we congratulate them, tunawaambia hongera wanawake ambao wanajituma, wanawake ambao wanajituma kwa kazi, wanapambania maisha yao, wanapambania familia zao. On Thursday, the throwback Thursday of course, and hapo ndipo tunajikumbusha memories za kitambo, tunacheka pamoja, tunafurahia pamoja, na kisha tunachubuizana pamoja pale. On Friday it is an interactive Friday, hapo ambao tunaongea mambo na lifestyle, tunaongea mambo ya biashara, tuna interact, mimi na wewe tuna interact. Karibu tena Top Prime Media fans. It is from Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Top Prime Media, the app of authentic vibes. Top Prime Media, the app of authentic vibes.
Hello fans, welcome to Prime Media Morning Breakfast Show. Nami John Mwadon. Hapa ndipo tunakutana naongea mambo ya siasa, hapa ndipo tunakutana naongea mambo ya biashara. We also speak about lifestyle. Welcome to Morning Breakfast Show. Nami John Mwadon. On Monday we have a blues Monday, where we speak about men. Tunawapongeza sana na tunawaambia congratulations men. Kama vile Harambee Stars imeshinda, tunawaambia congratulations. Tunawaambia jikaze. Tuesday we also meet on the Morning Breakfast Show, siku ya kuongea mambo ya afya, about health, because unajua kwamba hatuwezi kaa maisha bila kukuwa na afya njema. So on Tuesday we meet pale Morning Breakfast Show again, then we speak about health. On Wednesday hapo ndipo nao wanawake hawajatumiwa, we congratulate them, tunawaambia hongera wanawake ambao wanajituma, wanawake ambao wanajituma kwa kazi, wanapambania maisha yao, wanapambania familia zao. On Thursday, the throwback Thursday of course, and hapo ndipo tunajikumbusha memories za kitambo, tunacheka pamoja, tunafurahia pamoja, na kisha tunachubuizana pamoja pale. On Friday it is an interactive Friday, hapo ambao tunaongea mambo na lifestyle, tunaongea mambo ya biashara, tuna interact, mimi na wewe tuna interact. Karibu tena Top Prime Media fans. It is from Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m.
Dear investors, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. This is Lewide Enterprises Limited presenting to you Vision Gardens Phase 2. This project is going for only 950,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa to 95,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title deeds. By that I mean kama ni plot number 1 iko na title deed yake, and we do title deed at zero cost. Once you complete your payment, tunakufanyia title deed transfer. We have daily site visits kuja kuona shamba at 10 am and 2 pm. Ofisi yetu iko pale Kitengela Muigai Efrata building, second floor. What are you waiting for? The time to invest is right now, and the way to invest is by coming for our site visit. Book today our site visit and explore this amazing project. As you can see, this is one of our clients mwenye tayari ashajenga. You too can be a part of this amazing neighborhood. Visit us today and enjoy this amazing facility. Thank you. Hello dear investors, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. This is Lewide Enterprises Limited presenting to you Vision Gardens Phase 2. This project is going for only 950,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa to 95,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title deeds. By that I mean kama ni plot number 1 iko na title deed yake, and we do title deed at zero cost. Once you complete your payment, tunakufanyia title deed transfer. We have daily site visits kuja kuona shamba at 10 am and 2 pm. Ofisi yetu iko pale Kitengela Muigai Efrata building, second floor. What are you waiting for? The time to invest is right now, and the way to invest is by coming for our site visit. Book today our site visit and explore this amazing project. As you can see, this is one of our clients mwenye tayari ashajenga. You too can be a part of this amazing neighborhood. Visit us today and enjoy this amazing facility. Thank you. Hello dear investors, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. This is Lewide Enterprises Limited presenting to you Vision Gardens Phase 2. This project is going for only 950,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa to 95,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title deeds. By that I mean kama ni plot number 1 iko na title deed yake, and we do title deed at zero cost. Once you complete your payment, tunakufanyia title deed transfer. We have daily site visits kuja kuona shamba at 10 am and 2 pm. Ofisi yetu iko pale Kitengela Muigai Efrata building, second floor. What are you waiting for? The time to invest is right now, and the way to invest is by coming for our site visit. Book today our site visit and explore this amazing project. As you can see, this is one of our clients mwenye tayari ashajenga. You too can be a part of this amazing neighborhood. Visit us today and enjoy this amazing facility. Thank you. Hello dear investors, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. This is Lewide Enterprises Limited presenting to you Vision Gardens Phase 2. This project is going for only 950,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa to 95,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title deeds. By that I mean kama ni plot number 1 iko na title deed yake, and we do title deed at zero cost. Once you complete your payment, tunakufanyia title deed transfer. We have daily site visits kuja kuona shamba at 10 am and 2 pm. Ofisi yetu iko pale Kitengela Muigai Efrata building, second floor. What are you waiting for? The time to invest is right now, and the way to invest is by coming for our site visit. Book today our site visit and explore this amazing project. As you can see, this is one of our clients mwenye tayari ashajenga. You too can be a part of this amazing neighborhood. Visit us today and enjoy this amazing facility. Thank you. Hello dear investors, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. This is Lewide Enterprises Limited presenting to you Vision Gardens Phase 2. This project is going for only 950,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa to 95,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title deeds. By that I mean kama ni plot number 1 iko na title deed yake, and we do title deed at zero cost. Once you complete your payment, tunakufanyia title deed transfer. We have daily site visits kuja kuona shamba at 10 am and 2 pm. Ofisi yetu iko pale Kitengela Muigai Efrata building, second floor. What are you waiting for? The time to invest is right now, and the way to invest is by coming for our site visit. Book today our site visit and explore this amazing project. As you can see, this is one of our clients mwenye tayari ashajenga. You too can be a part of this amazing neighborhood. Visit us today and enjoy this amazing facility. Thank you. Hello dear investors, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. This is Lewide Enterprises Limited presenting to you Vision Gardens Phase 2. This project is going for only 950,000 Kenya shillings, whereby you pay 10% deposit, the balance you clear within 12 months. By that I mean unalipa to 95,000, ingine unalipa pole pole kwa mwaka mmoja. And these plots have ready individual title.
So ladies and gentlemen, I have with me a very distinguished panel of experts, practitioners, and people that have walked the talk of constitutionalism in Kenya. I want to start with you, Honorable, our governor, and I would like to ask you to reflect back. You have been at the forefront of pushing for human rights. You have also been associated with the second liberation of our country. I want you to reflect on particularly the Bill of Rights and tell us, do you think as a country we have made steps forward or are we making steps back? Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. It's a big panel. I'm honored to be with the colleagues I see here, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. One, I think it is a great achievement that Kenya had a constitution like the one we have, which is part of Chapter 4 of the Constitution. And if you look at Article 19 of the Constitution, it talks about the centrality of the Bill of Rights. It states that the Bill of Rights is an integral part of the Kenya's democratic state. Now, without taking too much time, if you look at the main, human rights concerns and which rights are there in the Constitution, even if you look at the order in which they're spelled out in the Constitution, the right to life, the right to dignity, the right to the security of the person, the right to privacy, the right to the freedom of expression, and the right of assembly and demonstration. If I just take that lot of rights and examine what has happened to those rights in the last 10 years or so, I think we can generally say we are not there yet. We are constantly experiencing a situation where the state is constantly invading into these rights, and without the vigilance of the people, it is so easy in the Kenyan situation to make one step ahead and 2 steps back. But my comfort is that our Constitution has stayed intact. If you are aware, during the Constitution-making process, before it went to the people, it was taken to Parliament for consideration. Parliament considered nearly 100 amendments to the Constitution, and ever since, there have been attempts to amend the Constitution. I think it is part of our achievement that this Constitution has remained intact, and particularly the Bill of Rights. It is important that all of us realize the centrality of the human rights. It pervades our life, and it is found from the very beginning clauses of the Constitution right up to the last clauses of the Constitution, so that we can build monuments, we can build roads, but without respecting human rights, we cannot build the kind of society which is spelled out in Article 3 of the Constitution, that we are a democratic, multi-party state. And I want to end up by giving this example. If you go to a place like Russia, somebody like Joseph Stalin built a lot of monuments, which you can see up to now. If you go to South Africa, you can point monuments that the evil regime of apartheid left behind. But because of their human rights record, that record is still a permanent feature of the leadership of Stalin and the leadership of the racist regime in South Africa. And the main concern for us as a country now, And looking at what I saw in the front pages of papers today, we must always be careful that building a nation is not a brick and mortar kind of exercise. What is important and what is spelled out in our preamble, what is spelled out in Article 10 of the Constitution about principles and values of good governance is that there are some core values that must become an integral part of our democratic state. And central to it is human rights. Thank you.
Asante sana. Indeed, central to the foundation of a nation is human rights. I want to turn to you, Millie, Honorable Millie Adhiambo. You have been known to be a fighter for human rights, especially for the vulnerable person. You are now sitting in Parliament, and we've just heard the protector of the Constitution primarily is the Parliament. Now, I want you to reflect on what the governor has said, and particularly looking at the whole issue of Chapter 43, socioeconomic rights. And tell us, what do you think? Do you think Parliament can play a role to ensure that our counties deliver on this right? Because these are the tangible rights that Kenyans are asking for.
Good morning, and maybe I can start off by saying that since I come from the lakeside, I heard you introducing Senator Mungatana by saying he's a PhD student. So I must also say that I'm a PhD student on governance and leadership. But do I say? But having said that, I just want to say that what Honorable Orengo has spoken to largely is issues of civil and political rights. And you're asking me to talk about social and economic rights. And I want to say that I was born and raised in this town. When I was born and raised, it was a small and dusty town. I grew up not too far from here, where my younger years, on a street that has now been named William Ruto Street. And I was born after independence, and our parents spoke about how colonialists took away our rights and our dignity. And on the street that I grew up in, there were street lights. But then there were other amenities that were missing. But there was promise that was ripe for change, especially because the colonialists had gone away. But with the time, instead of us seeing positive move, we were actually regressing. And I'm a writer. So I started writing a novel called The Things We Lost with Freedom, because I thought we had got freedom and lost with freedom. And it's a paradox, because then we were fighting so hard to remove the colonialists and ended up losing in the process. And I was looking at it in contradiction with countries where the colonialists stayed longer, like South Africa and Zimbabwe. And you could see that they had progressed in certain things because of that. And I think it's an uncomfortable truth that a lot of us as Africans leaders don't want to deal with. That when we have been given our freedom, instead of using our freedom for progress, we use our freedom for regress. But I want to say that, fortunately, I have been forced to halt writing my book. And it is a tragedy because I've had to halt it only because of the last probably a few years in Homa Bay, 3-4 years in Homa Bay. And the reason I halted it is because the reason I was writing this book is that I'd hoped to see the hospital bigger, better, offering better services. But it was worse than the hospital where I was born and raised in. It had gotten worse. I'd hoped the roads were tarmacked. The roads were not tarmacked. They were getting worse. Everything that we saw, we had running water in the house. There was no more running water in the house. So I was like, so why did we want freedom anyway? But that's why I'm saying it's changing in the last few years. And you can credit that to a deliberate effort by the national government towards inclusion of this area that has been marginalized for years because of being in opposition, and which is a tragedy that we don't look at issues of inclusion and governance. You know, civil and political rights really marry a lot with social and economic rights. Because if you are not in government, then you are not served. So I would actually want to challenge our government to ensure that it doesn't matter whether people are in opposition or not, include every part of the country in development. And that is why a lot of my friends, I'm here with my friends who I told them I want you to come and experience Homa Bay. In the crowd here I have my friend who is from Nyandarua. And she was telling me how come many places you hear people saying 1 term, and here people are just jumping saying 2 term. And I told her, if you go around here, you are seeing the roads. All these roads in reality are new. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be that development is there, and I make my decision independent of that road based on other governance facets. So what am I saying in summary? I'm saying that with the devolution, again, we are seeing now things changing. The governor for Homa Bay told us yesterday that the county government is already doing an emergency wing unit for Homa Bay Hospital. So that's a positive change. There are many dispensaries that are coming up in the county. That's a positive change with the devolution. So our challenge, especially as governors, is we have opportunity with the devolution for purposes of social and economic rights to change the trajectory of our own counties, to bring healthcare, to bring water, ensure there's access to water, healthcare, and services. But then, of course, again, Honorable Rengo will tell you justice delayed is justice denied. Most of us think of it in terms of civil and political rights. But in this case, the justice delayed would be how quickly do governors get money from the, the national. How quickly does the money come? And for the first time, I'm happy that, and you'll confirm to us, that the CS Treasury has said that for the first time, the money has come, all the money has come in time. Because again, even if you say that you are allocating money to governors and it comes, late, then it affects planning and the delivery of service. Otherwise, what I can say as a country, that we kind of had a seesaw, but in civil and in social and economic rights, our greatest hope is with the counties working and working effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Millie, I want to push a little on that, and maybe to encourage you to finish your book as a PhD student. But I also want to push a little bit on that. You talked about, we were colonized, we were left with something, we lost it. The second liberation was the Constitution. So how do we go about making sure we don't lose momentum? Because what you're speaking to is actually lost momentum. We seem to gain it, then we lose it. So how do we ensure we do not lose momentum? And how do we sustain that which you're speaking to now? You're saying things are changing. We can see in Homa Bay, you're telling us the hospital you're born in is much, much better now. But how do we make sure we don't lose it?
I think for me it's about holding the leaders accountable. And there are different arms, and that's why I'm glad that we have civil society as well, but also the National Assembly as well, and the Senate as well. And the senators would really help us by ensuring that we hold our counties accountable. And the National Assembly would help us by ensuring we hold the executive accountable. And the civil society would help us by holding the members of parliament accountable. So it's about vigilance and accountability. And if we don't sustain that vigilance and accountability, then we would regress.
And one of the things that I love about the Constitution, as Honorable Rengo has indicated, can you imagine even the recent challenges we had as a country if we did not have the Constitution? It would be a tragedy that you find somebody shoots, you know, like the guy with the mask who was shot. And if we didn't have a Constitution, what would be his recourse? Yeah, of course, we hope that cases of these extrajudicial killings would stop. But because you have a Constitution, you can see that now there is even a talk about compensation, which I really welcome. And maybe just to also inform you that I'm the one who came up with the Victim Protection Act. And I'm glad that we are amending it to provide a stronger framework for compensation. But we need to not have. I'd be happy if the law I passed is ineffective because we are effective as a government, so that nobody needs to be compensated. That's my dream, that nobody needs to be compensated. But unfortunately, because you have rogue people, like the guy who shot the mask, and the tragedy is he's a very young guy. He's himself a very young guy, and he shot this guy. And now you know, it's a loss which we don't. One life lost is one life too many. So for me, I think anchorage on the Constitution is what we need. Vigilance in ensuring the Constitution is implemented is what we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, accountability to the Constitution must be what we pursue as a nation. And speaking to that, Honorable Mungatana, you're from Tana River, another PhD student, and listening to what Millie is saying, she's saying, if it has to work, there has to be accountability. Senate is an oversight organ. How would that organ go about oversighting counties to ensure that they are really drivers, practically so, of socioeconomic rights and human rights?
Oh, thank you very much. First of all, I want to really say how happy I am being in Homa Bay today. I took a morning jog on your way to Zero. And the enthusiasm of the people, I was amazed at how beautiful this place is, you know, the hills, the greenery, it's so nice. And I thought if our girls came here, they won't go back to Tana River. So you're welcome to come to Tana River. It's beautiful. And I saw there's a lot of religion. I saw people on the river there wearing white. I think they were doing baptism or something. And people who are doing overnight prayer meetings. So I think there's a lot of prayer. Maybe this is one reason why Gladys Wanga, governor, is succeeding so well. I think people have a lot of faith and enthusiasm. As I was running there, I just had Muzungu, Muzungu. I told them, no, mimi ni Mswahili. And they all laughed, I don't know. But it's beautiful. Thank you so much to be here. The weather is fantastic. Except that the sun, it comes late. I think it was rising a bit late from our side, and it goes down a bit later. I don't know. It gets time to get used to the place, but it's beautiful. Thank you, the people of Homa Bay, and I love my stay so far. Maybe to go back to what we are saying about accountability. May I just say, first of all, before I say about accountability, how, for me, my experience of democracy and human rights, from the time that we were in university, in the Law Society, and then because we were in leadership in the Law Society at university, and then the Law Society of Kenya, and people like James, Paul Mwite, were all ahead of us. They were our heroes. And it's a great pleasure that when I got elected first time, I sat in the same parliament with Paul Mwite. Later on, we sat with James and other people who are in the fight for liberation. For I've seen it from the time when we were in university, that you could not sit 5 people and discuss anything before some secret police people arrest you. It was so bad those days.
You could not gather before you are told you are writing Mwakenyas and you are subject to, investigations. I remember things were very, very tight in those days. Even just holding a small demonstration. I was in leadership of the Law Society in Mombasa. And I remember we were just protesting against what we thought was the neglect by the second president then, Moi, because he was doing nothing, and there was a lot of problems in Tana River County. People were fighting, and the president, those days, when he says something, it happens. And he was doing nothing. So we called Paul Muite to come and address us. We called Khelef Khalifa. We were in that human rights space. And just to demonstrate, just to walk, to show that we are disappointed, just to walk on the main streets to present a petition at the PC's place. We were being arrested, chased. Nowadays, things have changed. We have walked a long way from where we were. We have a new constitution. I was part of that making of the deal that brought the new constitution in Nakuru. Naivasha? And we got a new constitution. Now, when we got the new constitution, we got the governors. So let me speak as a senator, that the governors are very happy with senators when we are fighting for an increase of the funds that is called equitable share that comes to the governors. And this year, we got 405 billion that is coming down to the 47 counties. And this is an increase of 26.7 billion that is coming down to the 47 counties. Governors are always happy when we are fighting for an increment for the equitable share. But then when we are talking about accountability of these funds, accountability of the utilization of these funds, governors start spreading the rumors that we want to overthrow them. We are planning an impeachment motion. We are against them. This senator wants to come to my seat. Well, this is the problem we are having. What Millie is saying, that it is not yet independent. When she was writing her book, that things are deteriorating with new officers. It is true, because the governors do not want to be told, here you are wrong, here you are misusing funds, here the funding that ought to be, because you see, as a senator, it's not my business and it is not my part of my constitutional mandate to plan for how the budget will be utilized. I fight for the money to come. When the money comes to Tana River County, it is the responsibility of the governor to make sure that that money goes to health, that money goes to the roads that they are responsible for, basic education, it goes to the salaries and all that planning. But then after that, the Auditor General comes and makes a report. And that report is the one that we do oversight. We call it secondary oversight. The primary oversight is supposed to be with the MCAs. The secondary oversight is supposed to be with us. And we try to do the best we can. But every time you are doing real-time oversight, like you visit a hospital and you visit a market that is being constructed to show that maybe there's no value for money, the governors are up in arms. So, in terms of going forward, I really want to emphasize this, that our county governments, for them to sustain development, they must allow proper oversight. They must not look at the Senate as enemies. They must not look at members of county assemblies as enemies. These are the people who are telling you, look, we allocated this amount of money for sports. There's nothing happening. We allocated this amount of money for health. There's nothing happening. I mean, I've just come from a fight with my governor because in the 2024-2025 budget, we allocated 18.6% of the budget for health. That comes to something like 1.23 billion
that goes to that. And then when you look at what our people are saying, there's nothing going on with the hospitals. Yesterday, Honorable Governor, His Excellency Kangata here, was demonstrating how in Murang'a County, he is able to tell, using digital technology, how many people have gone to hospital, even as he's sitting here, what diseases they are being examined for, how much, medicine has moved from the pharmacies across Murang'a County, where the vehicles are. This is where we should be going. And I really want to agree with Honorable Millie that we need to be honest, and transparency must be 100% in governance. And the only way is to use digital technology so that we are able to tell governors must stop thinking this money is theirs. They must think again that what this money came for is for the people. And they must also agree with us when we say Kangata is doing a good job, because we are able to see how many vehicles, he was here yesterday, how many vehicles are in the county, which one is parked at a bar. So even the drivers have behaved properly. Even the rate of accidents, county vehicles has reduced because of transparency. So in terms of sustaining the development, I think we need to have a reset in our minds. Senators are not here to fight you. Members of county assemblies are not fighting you. We are doing something called oversight, which is to simply ask the question, Your Excellency, the Governor, you allocated 650 million for water. There is no water project. Where is the money? So I think we need to have a reset in our minds. I really think that if oversight mechanisms are properly applied, then the counties will start being accountable for the monies that come to them, and these systems will sustain themselves. And let me say something about human rights at the county level. Most governors do not like human rights defenders. They don't like them because these people are the ones who go and tell them the truth. They are the ones who file petitions in county assembly to ask questions, and they don't support them. So what can governors and the county assemblies do? We in the Senate, we receive the petitions that say, oh, our land has been taken, oh, this has been done, and we have done our bit. Even yesterday, we went here to Ndiwa, hapa kwa hii Sukari's industry, to go and look at our committee on lands, to look at issues on pollution after we finished here with the official opening. We are doing our bit, but the important bit, I think, is to support those human rights organizations. We should have a budget that says we are going to support CSOs that are talking about women rights in Tana River County, children rights in Tana River County, something like that. But governors across the country, they are not bothered with human rights people operating in this space. So for me, I am making an appeal that at the county level, we need to reset our minds. We need to say that we are all working together for the people. And then we need to be inclusive by helping the CSOs to come into government space by saying, supporting the civil society organizations to be able to say what they see so that we can improve. When you tell me your trouser is not ironed, it doesn't mean that you don't like me. Governor, I'm just telling you, iron your trouser next time. Isn't that so? If I tell you your shirt is creased, I'm not saying I don't like your shirt. I'm just saying iron your shirt the next time. So let us have a reset so that at the county levels, we include the civil society organization. We work with the members of the county assembly. We work with the senators. Many senators may not be running for governorship. And so we should not look at senators as people who are threatening you. No, We are simply doing our work. And I think that attitude, if it's accepted, we are going to have stronger counties. We are going to have better human rights records within the counties, and we are going to have stronger civil society organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think one of the conversations that is obtaining is the place of transparency, accountability, to be able to uphold constitutional rights. And now I want to turn to you, Khalid, as a prominent practitioner in human rights and civil society, in the civil society area. If you could very, very quickly tell us the relationship you've had with counties, as Bwana Mungatana said, seems to be very adversarial. Is there any way we can be more intentional in working with county governments to be able to pursue these rights and to ensure that Kenyans can get socioeconomic rights? Very, very quickly, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you to Council of Governors for giving civil society and the human rights practitioners at the grassroots an opportunity to share our thoughts on this very important subject. It's true what Senator Mungatana has alluded to, that in many counties today, county governments perceive civil society as an enemy. And all we do is to play our role as civil society, as NGOs, as CBOs, as social justice centers. We have a responsibility to hold those in power accountable. And that responsibility has even become more pronounced, especially when traditional institutions that are meant to also support in holding leaders accountable are not doing that anymore. From the grassroots to, the national level, we are seeing institutions eroding their public trust. And as civil society, we've continued, number one, not just to hold those accountable to book, but also those who are supposed to supervise to also do the same. So even as we speak, we know the responsibilities of the Senate. The Senate has a duty to ensure accountability, as the Senator has alluded to, the secondary responsibility. We hold the opposition also to account because they also have a duty. And when you're a party in opposition and then you decide to go to bed with the government of the day, you are diluting your responsibility as an opposition party. So we also have to hold those institutions accountable. And for me, I think when we adopted the new constitution in 2010, devolution was a promise that everyone had so much hopes in. Unfortunately, and as we make reference to the Auditor General's report, you will find that that promise has somehow turned into plunder. Every other day, every year, you hear of mismanagement of resources, ghost workers, unaccounted or unsupported expenditure. And this is something that as civil society, we are very, very worried about. And we feel that devolution can play a bigger and better role than what we are seeing currently. County governments have the primary mandate to deliver on Article 43 of the Constitution, socio-economic rights. This new Constitution made the right to healthcare. Gave us the healthcare as a right to food, right to clean water, and all these things. And these are supposed to be delivered primarily by the county governments. That's why for us, we are very much, zeroing down on county governments because the promise was with those county governments. And when we see in the streets, dilapidated infrastructure, we are not seeing the promises that were made, then we get extremely, extremely frustrated. And it's not just civil society, it's the population out there. Many people feel that, county governments are not delivering on their mandates. Every time you go to county governments, the services are never there. You find that county governments mainly divert resources either to governors' homes, to county executives. It becomes a pool or a party for a few to benefit from the county government resources. But the larger population remains unserviced or, not truly getting the fruits of devolution. So we feel that, time has come for us to consider restructuring the devolution structure that we have in this country. It is our firm belief that we over-devolved. 47 is, economically unsustainable, politically not viable, and it's about time we have used the experience, 15 years of experience, to review the devolution structure that we have so that we can then put into account our experiences to make sure that we are able to do that. And as I conclude, one very clear proposal that we are making is to reduce the number of devolved units. 47 is just too much. We need to reconsider that, either halving it at most, or maybe even having a minimum of 8. So that we can have more resources dedicated to service delivery, as opposed to paying 47 governors, paying 47 county assemblies, and all this, all those resources can be better channeled to provide services to the common mwananchi.
Great, thank you very much. I think one of the things you've highlighted is after 15 years, we need to come back and ask ourselves, how is it working? Now, I want to turn to another oversight agency, and this is NGEK, and ask, how would we translate this to national values? Because the ideal would be if good practice became norm and became a national value. You did a study not so long ago on national values and how counties are actually implementing that. Would you please speak to it very, very quickly?
Thank you, Jackie. Allow me to appreciate the panel. Unlike yesterday, it is a very inclusive panel. We have a 50-50 representation. As a commission, we were very concerned yesterday that out of all the speakers, we only had 2 female. That is, the first session had only Senator Muma, and I think the afternoon had only Governor Gladys Wanga. So I'd like to congratulate you today. Having said that, from National Gender and Equality Commission, of course, we are a constitutional commission established pursuant to Article 59(4) of the Constitution of Kenya. And our main mandate is to promote gender equality and to ensure freedom from discrimination. And therefore, we have worked closely with the county government because out of our 16 mandate, as you have rightly put it, one of it is to ensure that the principles of equality and inclusion is adhered to by both the national and the county government. For a decade, we conducted monitoring, and therefore we noted gaps and gains. And I would like to put my presentation into 3. I will start with the representation. In terms of representation, we have been having a progressive growth, especially in representation of female in county assemblies, where at least the basic minimum of 33.3% is met. However, there is no effort to increase the representation to 50. Therefore, we have an opportunity to do better. Also, in terms of representations of youth, progressively from 2017 to 2022, we have seen an increase of numbers of youth elected to county assemblies from 317 to 349 in 2022. Also, persons with disability, as commission, we have noted that almost half the county assembly have representation of persons with disability in the assemblies. And I would like to appreciate the governor of Siaya is one of the counties with persons with disability in their assembly. Again, another indicator is protection of the vulnerables, especially women, from harmful cultural practices such as FGM, gender-based violence. Again, there is a progress. However, the gap is that we are seeing increase of femicide. Some counties are still practicing retrogressive practices such as FGM. Therefore, we have an opportunity to do better. Thirdly, we also audited in areas of access to services, especially public participation, which is a constitutional requirement. I think that is an avenue where we could do better as a counties. There is a report that it is more or less like a token or organized participation. Therefore, going forward, we would like to see citizens having a lot of say and participation. What do we do as National Gender and Equality Commission to ensure that all these values of Article 10 is adhered to? We do a lot of collaboration with counties. We support the CECs and MCAs to train them on the values of Article 10. We support the county government to develop policies. I think over 35% of counties have policies, gender-based violence policies, PWD inclusion policies, and other policies that is relevant to inclusion. Likewise, we also train the clerks of the National Assemblies to be more sensitive, especially when it comes to issues of budgeting, to ensure that the special interest group is protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What we are hearing is it's happening, but it could do better. One of the areas of inclusion you have highlighted is gender. But one of the most excluded is actually young women. Now, I have with me Ms. Bolo, who is the chairperson of Young Women Leaders Connect. What does it look like for young people? And what would you speak to the leaders on this panel on how best to include young people, especially young women?
Thank you so much for that. I think I'd like to start from the point on transparency and accountability that I think Senator Mbongatana spoke to. And it amazes me that every time there is a governor who has just come in, when you're in their meeting, the first thing you'll hear them say is, you know, when we came in, we didn't find structures. We are still putting up structures. And so very recently, after the 2022 election, our pain point was we cannot even ask for certain accountability because the response is then going to be, we have just finished putting up structures, so now is when we want to start working, 1, 2, 3 years down the line. And so what that does is, as young women specifically, when we want to put the governments to task, and even county assembly to task on certain things and certain issues, you can't get a response because they already have a defense mechanism of how they are going to respond to you. They also still don't have certain policies. It would come as a shock to many that up to now, we still have county assemblies that don't have a sexual harassment policy. It's only until recently that a number of them were still doing it. So as a young woman, when you're going to a member of county assembly, for example, to try and engage them on the issues on sexual harassment within your ward or within your area, how do you begin when they themselves don't even have a document that they can use in protecting you, a document that they can use when they are going into the county assembly? How do you begin that conversation? And so I think for young women, it starts from the point of dialogue. We do not have we don't have enough systems for dialogue. We don't have enough systems to even try and question the various legislators that are there. A lot of counties right now don't have working websites. Very recently, we were having a dialogue forum in one of the counties, and a young woman stood up and asked, why is it that we don't have a sexual harassment policy? And the member of county assembly in the county said, no, we have it. Go to the website and check. We actually have a lot of progressive gender bills that we are doing. You will find them on the website. But to their surprise, the website was not working. And so how do you follow up on the mechanism you have been sent to go and check on and contribute towards? I think the other issue is public participation is not, it is being done just to look like it has happened. So to talk about the structure of it, if I'm a young woman and I'm a lactating mother, it's going to be very difficult for me to get there because the environment is not suitable for young people, for young mothers So you find that you will either, they don't have an area where they can say lactating mothers are free to sit here, or we are able to get minders for the young children. So what I'll do is I'll stay home. I will not go for that session. That if you're maybe working, because look at most of the public participation forums are done during weekdays. So if I am working, then I'm not able to attend the public participation forum. I have to choose between making my bread or going to participate in decision making. So if we are able to incorporate civic participation, we have apps like Civic Voices that are able to tell people, these are the public participation forums that are happening, this is where it's happening, should you want to give your views, this is how you can give your views. That way, even if I'm not able to be there physically, I am able to at least follow up and see this is what people discuss and this is what has happened. And this is the areas that we can do better. I think another area is the relationship between senators and governors. A lot of times, if the senator and the governor are from the same party or from the same coalition, then very rarely will you hear oversight discussions. But if they are from different camps, then the excuse, especially from the executive, then becomes, I wanted to do A, B, C, and D, but the politics from the senator has stopped me. So again, that makes it also very difficult to question some of their gains and some of their losses, because then the issue becomes very political and moves away from what the tangible issue is. I think lastly is also to talk about the voices of young women. So when you go to, there are certain forums that we know are designated for the wazes, let me say, the traditional elders. We know women have the chamas, the jumuiya, but as a young woman, when you want to go to the chama, most of the time the women will tell you, you have your own duties as young women. Go and get your own caucuses as young women. And when you go to the areas where the youth are supposed to be socializing, then the young men will not expect you to be there, because that is their space. They want to dominate. So you find that young women fall through the cracks because then they don't exactly have a particular area where they can belong, where they can, voice out what some of their issues are.
Thank you very much. I think hearing that, you've talked about policy, but you've also talked about many false starts, especially in inclusion of younger person. I want to turn to you, Council Okello. You have had very good practice in terms of reform, especially at the judiciary level. Are there lessons you can share very, very quickly in a minute or so that you could share that counties can borrow in terms of how to meaningfully achieve these rights for citizens? Very quickly, sir.
Thank you very much. You'll just give me a minute before I talk about the law and the judiciary, to talk about economics. In a minute, because we are talking about socio-economic rights, which is a very developmental term. My view, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. My view is that we'll only realize socio-economic rights if we satisfy two considerations. One, we must get the conceptual and philosophical basis of rights correctly. These are not gifts. They are at the center of human dignity. And that requires a major mental shift to embrace the very citizen-centric constitution that we have, and not a state-centric constitution that we had before. So there needs to be a mental shift among duty bearers on the question of right within the context of Kenya in 2025. Then the second consideration is we must get the empirical and the strategic and the financial right. That's a second precondition. And what do I mean? Socioeconomic rights plays out on the fourth schedule, which is what Khalid was talking about. Devolved units are a major agent of realizing socioeconomic rights. And a lot of jurisprudence around the Bill of Rights has also emerged through contestations around devolution. Now, if we do not complete the transfer of functions to devolved governments, that process is incomplete, it's inchoate. And the best illustration is in health and agriculture. And I'll just give you 2 figures and 1 anecdote. So if we do not complete that transfer, and we also do not sufficiently support county government financially, then we are likely to face constant trouble with respect to socioeconomic rights. But also, if we do not have corresponding accountability that is robust, then it doesn't matter how much money you give to counties. The reason why I'm saying this is if you look at health, or if you look at overall allocation of sharing revenue, it has been declining. The national budget is increasing, the equitable share of revenue is declining. It was at 17.3% in 2022, it was at 15% in 23, 14% in 24, and 14.3% in 25. So the decline of the equitable share of revenue runs opposite to the increase in the total budget from 2.1 trillion in 2022 to 2.8 trillion. That's number one. Number two, and this is where the bigger story is. So first of all, we are below the constitutional threshold. But number two, if you look at the allocation to health and agriculture, which are effectively devolved functions, that tells you that the incomplete nature of the transfer of functions to county government will continue to undermine the ability to realize socioeconomic rights. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Then on the judiciary transformation that you talked about, yes, this is a key institution, realization of rights. In 2011, when we came in, we had 16 high court stations in the whole country. Today, there are about 45 high court stations. We had 53 judges throughout the country. Today, we have 190 judges throughout the country. In this county, you had to go to Kisii to access a high court judge. For those who know this county, from Nyakach to Isibania, there was only one judge in Kisii. That has changed. We have judges here, we have judges in Migori, and so on and so forth. So we increased the number of judicial officers to just improve the access to justice. There are many other things that are going on which may help with inclusion and socioeconomic rights. One, if I may say very quickly, the Small Claims Court. It was set up almost 3 years ago. As of now, it has had 294,000 cases, which says that there was suppressed demand for justice. And for me, that is a frontier for work. Number two, we have the alternative justice system mechanisms that the judiciary is rolling out, which is a very good alternative framework for resolving disputes quickly and in a cheaper manner. So very quickly, those are just two things that are happening in the judiciary that I think are key in helping realize socioeconomic rights at a very basic community level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, time is not on our side, so we need to be closing the panel. But I think hearing all that, I just wanted very quickly to ask Governor Orengo, what new practice would counties then adopt that would help in realization of these rights? Very quickly, sir.
I think, first of all, let me make a general comment about some of the things that have come up because they have been directed to counties. There should be no apology about accountability. That is a requirement of the Constitution. And Mr. Khalid, my friend, whenever you are oversighting counties, either as a government institution or a civil organization, that is provided in the Constitution. And you should not whine about it. And I want to remind Governor Mungatana that you have the tools. If I'm summoned by the Senate and I do not appear in the Senate has tools to punish any infractions to legitimate processes that are being conducted by the Senate, either as an oversight body or as a legislative body. But overall, I want to say devolution is the way forward. Whether you live in the west, the east, or south, or north, you would find that the most productive, successful countries are those who are devolved. Whether they are big or small, they could be as small as Switzerland, or as big as China, or as big as the United States of America. And what Mr. Okello has said, I think it's where the problem that we have in this country, that whereas we glorify devolution, but what we do really means that we are still not committed to it. If you take a country like the United States of America, if you take those states separately, California, New York, Illinois, they are an integral part of a bigger economy, but even on their own, they contribute greatly to the national economy and even to the world economy. So we should not have any doubts that the future is really with devolution. And in Kenya, the problem is that this national government is still not quite in tandem with the promises of this constitution, that in order to bring power to the people, in order to take resources to the people, if you look at Chapter 11, you look at Article 174, it is the mechanism that the Constitution has established for taking power to the people and to take the resources to the people. And the tragedy is today, particularly on social and economic rights, as Mrs. Okello has pointed out, the resources that should be going to the counties are mostly still with the national government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me clap for the panelists who've done a very good job in the very tight time. What I've heard them say is accountability is non-negotiable. It is good practice. It's good manners. We must be accountable. We've also agreed that the Constitution is the foundation and we must mature it. We must respect it. They've said oversight is important and the oversight organs and tools need to be applied. But we've also said for this to happen and sustainability of development, we must be innovative and inclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, my sincere apologies. This would have been the best conversation if it lasted 5 hours because we needed to ask more questions, but we all overslept because this is Homa Bay, the home of fish. We had a little too much to eat and didn't make it too early. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You can still ask the panelists when they come back the questions you may be holding. Thank you.
All right, so let's appreciate them once more. That is a great thought-provoking conversation there by Ms. Jackie Mbogo. She is the moderator as well as Chief of Party UK Aid Reinvent Program. We've also had His Excellency Governor James Orengo, Governor Siaya County, Honorable Millie Grace Odhiambo, Member of Parliament for Suba North Constituency, Senator Honorable Danson Mungatana, Senator for Tana River County, Honorable Rehema Jaldesa, Chairperson, National Gender and Equality Commission, Mr. Hussein Hali, the CEO of Vocal Africa, as well as Council Duncan Okolo, Associate Director of the Kenya Judiciary Academy, and Ms. Ruth Bolo Okul, the Chairperson of the Young Women Leaders Connect. And as we always do, let's have them take a group photo for this second plenum. In the interest of time, we now move on to our side events happening in the designated breakout areas. Please check your program to see which sessions you'd like to attend. Here in the main hall, we have a session by the Digital Health Authority on the role of digitization in healthcare in promoting social equity, justice, and inclusion. If you want to be in that side event, do stay in the main hall. But a very important, something important to note, that we will convene right here in the main hall at exactly 12:30 p.m. for a high-level session with our guest speaker, retired Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. It is a high-level session you do not want to miss. So please be back here and seated by 12:30 p.m. Good afternoon. the delegates and the dignitaries that will be accompanying former retired Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Thank you.
When we regained our independence, or even before, we were told that our names were not good. So that when you are Christianized and you are Pipim and you went for baptism and you renounce the devil with all his works, they also said you have to be John. Because in their scheme of things, it appears that the heavens only recognize John, not Pipim. We were told that all the education we had acquired meant nothing. So that if you are eloquent in Ga or in Chui, you are not intelligent. You are only intelligent in English. You can only be intelligent in French, in Portuguese. We now know that that is nonsense. And you know, when that great Nigerian musician in the 1980s, fella Nicola Pokuti, said, "Teacher, don't teach me nonsense." He meant it. He was reminding us that we must examine our education system. You know, when the British came here and they were establishing schools across Africa, and then when they were establishing Achimota, which is famous for producing great Ghanaians, the intention was to produce young men and women who would support the colonial empire. The intention was the same in Uganda with Budo's King's College. It was the same in Kenya with the Alliance schools. As Chinua Achebe says, the white man was clever. He came and put a knife in the things that held us together, and things fall apart. And they have remained apart. So today when we come here to talk about education, we come here to remind ourselves that we have urgent business to be undertaken. We have urgent business to be undertaken to remind ourselves that Martin Luther King Jr. is still right. The mind is the standard of the man. Because if the mind cannot imagine, then we cannot realize our potential. So we are here to interrogate our education system. My good friend Samuel Pipim, doing the work that he came to do, to lay the ground, reminded you appropriately that we have now become famous for producing graduates in agriculture, some of whom, if you allow me a little latitude and hyperbole, cannot distinguish between a goat and a sheep. And that is why every person you ask in Africa is a farmer, but we are still importing chicken from Brazil. When I sit at the breakfast table in any African country, what am I served with? Nescafe from Nestle in Switzerland. There is not a single coffee bush in Switzerland. When I sit at the breakfast table, cocoa from Nestle, and yet Ghana is the largest producer of cocoa. What happened? We were disrupted. Pipim was right. When we want to build our roads, we have engineers, most of whom today, if you do not address them as engineers so and so, they rise up, ready to beat you up. But yet, when we are building our highway from Accra through to Winneba, through to Cape Coast, through to La Côte d'Ivoire, it is the Chinese that I see. Which calls into question, what type of engineering are we teaching? We are producing doctors, and they are good, some of them. But yet, when those of us who have the ability are sick, unless they do not know, they want to be airlifted to Dubai and to Germany. They have no faith in our medical system. When we are sick during COVID, all Africa is crying to America, oh, give us Moderna, give us Pfizer, to the Russians, give us Sputnik. We are crying. Yet we have universities with professors in medicine. You know, there is a missing link somewhere. Until the day we have the courage to find that missing link, then we are not preparing for the 21st century. Today, as I came here, courtesy of my hosts, I was driven in beautiful cars. Oh, none was made in Ghana. They are either made in Japan or in Germany. Africa does not produce cars. Ali Mazrui is right. We are in the business of consuming that which we do not produce and producing that which we do not consume. We must re-examine our education system. Even in matters as mundane as sports, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The United States of America offers our young men and women scholarships to study sports. Our universities don't. Football is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But yet, when one of the masters of ceremony was speaking in jest, it is not the anthem of Asante Kotoko that he remembered, but that of Liverpool, we shall not walk alone. So that as we are sitting here, even in the area of sports, which is a whole multi-billion-dollar industry, our young men and women are preoccupied with whether Arsenal beat Real Madrid or Barcelona beat Borussia Dortmund. They do not care whether Hafia Guinea du Conakry beat Asante Kotoko. The Osagiefo was right when he said, we may actually solve the economic problem. We may even solve the political problem. But I dare say that the mental problem which was impacted and makes us feel inferior will take a little longer to solve. This was not only said by the Osagiefo himself in 1963. In 1933, Carter G. Woodson, that African-American educator writing in his book, Miseducation of the Negro, said that we have been so miseducated for so long. Our self-esteem has been undermined for so long. We have been made to use the back door for so long that even when we are told to use the front door, we look for the back door, and if we can't find it, we create our own back door. The level of our miseducation is amazing. We must change it in order to enter into the 21st century. You know, Brother Pippin, when you said that our passport, technological passports to the 21st century and visas to boot are expired, you are right. How can we play football on the games of rugby, on the rules of rugby? How? This is the question that we want to address today. We are talking about agriculture. And we are saying that we are now using technology to feed ourselves by manipulating the elements. The Chinese are seeding the rain so that it may rain. They have no problem with those of us who pray we must. But this misguided belief by Africans that when there is no rain we pray and do nothing about it is completely misguided. The divine instruction was go ye and subdue the world. And subduing the world is by using our minds, by using the knowledge that we have. This is what the universities must ask. If you are a teacher, what kind of a teacher are you? Today, if I stood here and asked young Africans, and there is no shortage of them here, how many African authors do you know? And I asked, which is the last book of Chinua Achebe that you read? Or Kofi Awunur? Or Aikwe Iyama? Or Kamara Lai? Or Flora Nwapa? Or Dambisa Moyo? Or more recently, Chimama and Ngozi Adichie? Or Yagyansi? How many have? We have been made to believe That is only Shakespeare and Charles Dickens that matter. The time is now for us to change our minds. And we can only change our minds if we decolonize our minds. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, that famous Kenyan writer, says, until the day that we decolonize our minds, we are going nowhere. And Ngugi reminds us that we may have decolonized our countries, but there is something called decoloniality, totally liberating ourselves from the mental chains of the colonizers. You know, the Osagiefo, to whom Africans owe an apology, wrote in his great book, Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, and the most dangerous. We are in that stage. That stage when the colonizer still wants us to believe that our literature is inferior, that our science does not exist, that our mathematics does not exist, that we have no medicine to talk about, that we cannot mine beyond Galamsey, that we cannot extract our own oil, that we have no business being in robotics and cryptocurrency, that we must be consigned to the Museum of History alongside the spinning wheel, that we have no business being in the jet age. That is what we are being told. And my fear is that we appear to be believing it. We appear to be believing it because in our institutions of learning, when you look at our curriculum and you look at the curriculum of a number of countries in the Middle Ages, there is no difference. And I want to remind all of us that in the 1960s, when we were regaining our independence, and you read what was happening in different African countries, and I remind you to reread some of the thinkers of the time and the emphasis that they put on education. I was rereading for the umpteenth time the 32 speeches that were delivered by African leaders in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, between the 23rd and 25th days of May 1963. All of them, without exception, said one thing: if we are to give meaning to our independence, then education must be our focus. So said Ethiopia's Haile Selassie. If we want to change the continent of Africa, we must give meaning to education. So said Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere of Tanzania on that day. If we are going to change my little Senegal, we must give education priority. So said Leopold Sedar Senghor of Senegal. Even the complicit Félix Houphouët-Boigny in La Côte d'Ivoire believed so. But the ultimate was, of course, the one and only, the Osagiefo. He was as eloquent as he was passionate. And when he came home, where did he not visit? If he was not at Legon, opening the University of Ghana, he was in Kumasi, creating what is now the Kwame Nkrumah University. And if he was not at Kumasi, he was here creating an institute. He was everywhere. That is why when I heard my good friend talking about free basic education, he knew that ignorance is the enemy of progress. He knew that if there was a ghost that we had to exorcise, it was the ghost of ignorance. He knew that if there was a devil that we had to pray and fast against, it was ignorance. He knew that if there was anything we had to marshal our forces against in order to exorcise the ghost of tribalism in its primordial sense. It was ignorance. He knew. Yet, several years down the line, when you ask your typical academic, when they want to say that the University of Winneba, of education at Winneba is good, they say it is as good as Oxford. Why? Why can't it be just good? They must say that it's as good as Harvard, as MIT. Why must we always have this inadequacy to compare ourselves with others? We must change in order to enter the 21st century with confidence. Your leadership, who is a judge and belongs to our profession, which is one of the most imprisoned professions in Africa. When you see our judges dressing, they still dress like Father Christmas. Whoever told us that justice could only be administered when you dress like Father Christmas, I do not know. And when we are citing, even deciding a matter on land law in Ghana, in Cape Coast, we still want to cite some decision that was made by some English judge in the 13th century, as if we did not have our own land laws. The time has come that we must rethink and re-enter the 21st century with laws that are known to Ghana. Ask the Ga if they do not have laws that if we refine cannot lead us into the 21st century. Ask the Akan people if they do not have such laws. Ask the Fante people if they do not. Ask the Ewe if they do not. They do. We live in a world where we are so mentally captured that those of you in the middle class, your greatest claim to fame is that my daughter can no longer speak Chui and is meant to be a badge of honor. It is a badge of complete colonial conquest. And we cannot enter the 21st century with that mindset. Go to the countries in the Scandinavia, which we can dare compare ourselves with. Go to Denmark, they teach in Danish. Go to Norway, they teach in Norwegian. Go to Sweden, they teach in Swedish. Go to Finland, they teach in Finnish. Go to Korea, they teach in Korean. Go to China, they teach in Chinese. Go to Japan, they teach in Japanese. Then they meet the world. But you and me, here I am waxing eloquent in English. Not in Kiswahili. We must revamp our curriculum. And we must have the courage to do so as I speak to you now. They are teaching Yoruba and Twi at universities outside of this continent. Why? Because language is a multi-million-dollar, multi-billion city industry. It is only us who do not know. Those of you who are religiously inclined, we are the only visitors in Jerusalem. So, brothers and sisters, we are here to remind ourselves that there is urgent business to be undertaken. We are here to remind ourselves that we had a good past. We are here to remind ourselves that others came and through slavery they disrupted that past. That they did not stop there. that they came again under colonization, and this time they disrupted us so very thoroughly and took away even the most precious of things, our confidence. That when they came here and imposed an education system, that education system had only one agenda. The agenda was to create men and women, if they were the English who colonized you, who could speak English and be their clerks. If you are colonized by the French, that you could speak French or Portuguese or Italian or Germany. When we regained our independence, we only made cosmetic changes. The time is now to go deep and remove the cosmetics and go to the fundamentals. And I'm suggesting to you that that has been done. You know, those of you who are a little older will remember that 30 years ago, China was not famous for much. They were only famous for Chairman Mao, for the long march. Today, even the toothpicks in your hotels here in Winneba are from China. Today, you go to the shops, even the inauthentic Kentes are from China. They have franchised, indeed patented Kente. You go home, your television is Chinese or Korean. You are being persuaded to use your phones. I suspect you are either using Samsung or Huawei. What did China do 30 years ago? They made a decision that we are going to change our education system. And they changed their education system. They engaged in agriculture. They engaged in technology. They engaged in medicine. They engaged in everything. And today, China is the second strongest economy in the world, with a GDP of no less than 19 trillion United States dollars. Compare that with little Ghana. Compare that with little Sierra Leone. Compare that with little Kenya, with little all these countries. What they did was to change their minds in order to change their future. And that is why when we are building roads, whether it's in Nairobi, Kenya, or in Accra, Ghana, or in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, or in Senegal, or in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso, or Bamako in Mali, or Harare in Zimbabwe, or in Zambia, who do we find? Chinese. Because they changed their minds. The time is now for us to change our minds. The academics who are here must agree with me that we have sinned and fallen short of the expectations of our countries. And that the time is now to say that we should be forgiven. And if our generation committed those mortal sins, you up there must not repeat those mistakes. You must not repeat those mistakes. You must use the examples and the experience so that you do not step on the landmines that we stepped on. That is why Chinua Achebe said, where are the young suckers that will grow when the old banana dies? These are old bananas. You are the young suckers. So rise up. Africa is not expecting you to engage in a perpetual state of lamentation. No, lamentation will not help you. And I want to remind you that when you are here in Ghana, don't compete with Liberia. You will beat Liberia. Don't compete with Benin. Don't compete with Togo. Don't compete with La Côte d'Ivoire. don't compete with all these little African dwarfs. Compete with giants. And when Ghana wakes up, this Ghana, you know, sometimes when I think about Ghana, I think about Kwame Nkrumah. And you think about his books, Dark Days in Ghana, Letters from Conakry. When the Osagyefo is so close yet so far, his ideas dead, his books banned until Ignatius Kutu Acheampong comes. It is only in the year 2013 that Nkosazana and Lamini Zuma, the then chair of African Commission, writes a letter of apology to Kwame Nkrumah. I urge you to read it. He tells Kwame, you are right. Everybody was wrong when you said we must unite and change our education system in order to compete. That is Nkosazana and Lamini Zuma. Today, the Osagyefo is here telling us, let us change. He said it in 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. He said it in 1964 in Cairo, Egypt. He said it in 1965 in Accra, Ghana. And on 6th day of March 1997, on the occasion of the celebration of 40 years of independence of Ghana, Kambarage Nyerere himself also apologized to Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. He said, you are right, we were wrong. Today I'm saying that we cannot remain imprisoned in history and lamentation. That is why it is still true for you Ghanaians. Nkrumah is dead, but Nkrumah never dies. And the reason why he never dies is that his ideas are evergreen. You tell who among you here is courageous enough to stand up and contradict me when I say what we are saying here was said by Kwame Nkrumah in 1955. Who among you? Who among you here is courageous enough to tell me that Nkrumah did not think about education of a different kind when he was instituting the University at Legon? Who amongst us? That he was right when he established the Kwame Nkrumah University in Kumasi, that he was right when he instituted the institute out of which grew the University of Education at Winneba. Who amongst you can contradict me? So if he was right, he did not have the advantage of the technology that you have? No. There was no WhatsApp, there was no Twitter or X, there was no Instagram, there was only Telegraph. But he was able to marshal the entire black community throughout the world and give meaning to education. What can you and me not do if we mean to do it? So you young men who are present here, don't tell me Nkrumah was old. Nkrumah was just slightly older than you. If you look at his cabinet, some of them were in their 20s. It is not formal education that maketh a man or a woman. The great Indian sage Raja Gopalachari says, education is not merely attending institutions and acquiring certificates. He says, you may have gone to school, but has school gone through you? This is the question. So, ladies and gentlemen, here today, we are here to tell ourselves ad nauseum that the mother continent can change, and she will change. She will change, and when I look at the future and I hold all factors constant, I see an Africa whose young men and women are educated and their education is about innovation and invention. I see such an Africa. I see an Africa whose sons and daughters will be leaders in cryptocurrency. I see that Africa. I see an Africa where all the cars running from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia to Banjul in the Gambia will either be made in Togo, Burkina Faso, or Uganda. I see that Africa. I see an Africa where the Ghanaian doctors who are running hospitals in the United States and in the United Kingdom will have the courage to come back home because there is something called a hospital where they can do their trade. I see such an Africa. I see an Africa where we will have our own satellites that are launched next to Elmina Castle, and they'll go out there in the orbit, and we shall not be depending on Vodafone. I see such an Africa. I see an Africa where we will be able to produce enough rice, enough cocoa, and enough gold, and we will process it here, and that you will be selling it to Nairobi, Kenya, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and it will not be necessary to look to the outside world. I see such an Africa. I see an Africa where, apart from Kiswahili, one of the languages that will be spoken will be Chui or Ebe or Ga. I see such an Africa. That Africa is possible. It is possible, Honorable Minister for Education, when at your next meeting you think outside of the box, or preferably without reference to the box. I see an Africa where we will give practical meaning to Africa Agenda 2063, not merely as a point of reference, but as a practical reality. I see an Africa where there is Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and the majority of students here at Winneba will be drawn from Togo, from Benin, from Gabon. I see an Africa where our kith and kin in Martinique, in Guadeloupe, and Barbados, Antigua, and Barbuda will be coming here. I see that happen. That is why, when I have such foresight, wisdom not only requires but dictates that I stop. Because going beyond that would be flogging a dead horse. I see an Africa that gives meaning to those words of the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, written in his book, Africa Must Unite, that Africa needs a new citizen. Are you those citizens that the Osagyefo was talking about? Are you? Do you have values? Do you have passion? Do you have dedication? Do you have love? Do you have imagination? Do you have the spirit of innovation? Do you have the spirit of invention? If that is true, then I have no fear for Africa. So go out there and amaze Africa. God bless you.
I'm Piero Lumumba here at Kibenda Tea Estate in Kiambu County in the Republic of Kenya, and we continue our conversations about the continent of Africa. And today we look at the legacy of the man for whom I am named, Patrice Emery Lumumba. Patrice Emery Lumumba was born amongst the Batetela people in Kasai. And like all young people who grew up during the colonial period, in his case, the colonization of Belgium,
he was exposed to Western education, but did not pursue his education to the university level, joined the working force, joined the postal services during the colonial period, and in 1955, Patrice Emery Lumumba joined the trade union movement. It is during his exposure to the trade union movement that he caught the bug of the fight against decolonization. He himself says that he had heard of freedom fighters in other parts of Africa. He had heard of Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah. He had heard of Nnamdi Azikiwe of Nigeria, and had heard of Julius Kambarage Nyerere, and of course Amilcar Cabral of Guinea-Bissau and Modibo Keita of Mali. And this is what energized him. And one of the things that Patrice Emery Lumumba says annoyed him the most was the manner in which King Leopold of the Belgians had controlled and impoverished Congo. It is not told as often as should be, but he reminded many people on many occasions that Leopold of the Belgians had killed no less than 15 million Congolese, a massacre of gigantic proportions. So when he joined the trade union movement in 1955 through to 1956, of course, he was jailed for an accusation of having embezzled some funds and jailed for 12 months. Later, of course, he was released and was one of the individuals that were invited by Kwame Nkrumah in Accra, Ghana in 1958. When he went to Accra, he had the opportunity of meeting other African freedom fighters who had been involved in the struggle for decolonization. And he came back charged and founded an organization, the Congo National Movement, because at that time he was quite clear that the process of decolonization that was being conducted by the locals against the Belgians was simply going to lead to the creation of a comprador and compliant class. That meant individuals such as Joseph Kasavubu and of course Moise Tshombe. And when he came in, the Belgians were also fatigued and they literally abandoned Congo. And in the year 1960, of course, independence was then granted. And this is important. At that time, the king in Belgium was King Mwadon. And when he came to Congo in what was then called Leopoldville, now Kinshasa, the arrangement was that Lumumba would not speak. The arrangement that was Kasavubu would speak. And indeed, when you listen to Kasavubu's speech, he praises the Belgians. How good they were to the Congolese. And taking the cue, King Mwadon also reminds the Congolese that they have inherited a good thing from the Belgians and that they have a duty to retain it. Patrice Emery Lumumba, who had written a speech, stands up. Everybody is surprised. And he begins to speak. And he reminds his audience that that day marks an occasion which must remain in the minds of the Congolese. That the Congolese must remember that they have been humiliated, that they have been impoverished by the Belgians, and that the joy of the occasion was that from that day henceforth, the Congolese would write their own history. The Congolese would be masters of their own resources. The Congolese would be a people that would be respected by the world. He speaks, and you can see, if you look at the footage, King Mwadon looking at Kasavubu and wondering, what is this man saying? Those who know say that it is on that day that it was decided that Lumumba must die. And it is also instructive to remind ourselves that prior to that event, he had met a young journalist while they were in Brussels in Belgium. That young journalist was Joseph Desire Mobutu, who later renamed himself Mobutu Sese Seko Kukumbendu Wanzambanga during the days when he was now dealing with what he called authenticity and making everything to become Congolese or Zaire. And this man, Mobutu, unknown to Lumumba, was already an agent of the CIA. He was already an agent of the Belgian intelligence, and this is well documented in the book that is written by Ludo de Witt, The Assassination of Lumumba. He tells us how Mobutu then became very close to Lumumba, who was honest and trusting. And he believed that this is a man that was going to participate in the process of decolonization of the Congo. Within 9 months of Congo regaining her independence in 1916, the month of June, the month of January, I think, the process of eliminating Lumumba begins. Lumumba's party, the national movement, wins, and Lumumba is then appointed as the prime minister with Joseph Kasavubu as the president. But a crisis begins. There is a conflict, and that conflict leads to Kasavubu dismissing Lumumba and Lumumba dismissing Kasavubu, and of course the Belgians have already decided that they are going to eliminate Lumumba. And there is another figure that emerges in the scene, a man from Katanga called Moise Chombe. Lumumba, sensing the difficulties and aware that the United Nations was present in that space, appeals because there is a mutiny in the army. And he appeals to the then Secretary of the United Nations, Dag Hammarskjöld, to support his army so that this mutiny can be brought down and the Belgians would not eliminate him. And the United Nations abandons Lumumba. It is at that time that Lumumba turns to the Soviet Union. And the Americans then say, this is a communist, and he's going to make Congo a communist country, and the decision is made. And from that day on, there is a code name for Lumumba. The code name for Lumumba is Satan. And the decision is that he must be eliminated. Of course, he is arrested and is detained in Kinshasa, then Leopoldville. And he tries with people like Pierre Mulele, who are part of the people that he was working with, and he attempts to escape on his way to the Kasai province, to what was then called Stanleyville, now called Kisangani. Unfortunately, Lumumba is arrested by the forces of Mobutu, and once they have arrested him, and this footage is one of the most painful footages you ever see of Lumumba's hands being tied at the back, and is handed over to Moses Chombe in Katanga. And when they hand him over, the story is now told. Ludo de Witt says he's taken to the forest, he's shot, and his body is dissolved in acid. The man who shot him has recently come out and said, he's now an old man, that I shot Lumumba and the only thing that I retained was his tooth, which was returned to Congo in the year 2024. That is the sad history of how Lumumba then entered the heart of the people. And one of the things that Lumumba does before he dies is that he writes a letter to his wife Josephine Opango, one of the most iconic letters. He says, in part, I'm aware that I'm going to die, but I die in the knowledge that the history of Congo will be written by the Congolese. And of course, he is executed, and there are riots across the world because Lumumba had already distinguished himself as a Pan-Africanist. So numerous are the riots, and of course, leaders across the world, Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Kambarage Nyerere, at that time in the Soviet Union, Lumumba's name is synonymous with Pan-Africanism. Lumumba's name is synonymous with courage. Lumumba's name is synonymous with somebody who loves his country. Lumumba's name is synonymous with the good things that the Congolese would have wanted. And Lumumba is only age 36 at that time. And subsequently, of course, it is said that the spirit of Lumumba has never rested. It has never rested, with the consequence that even as we speak today, the Democratic Republic of Congo has known no peace and will never know any peace. I know that his legacy was preserved in many ways. Here in Kenya in the 1960, in honor of Lumumba, we had something that was formed by the Kenya African National Union, KANU, called the Lumumba Institute. We had streets named for Lumumba. We had in Moscow the Friendship University, which was named after Patrice Emery Lumumba and became a kind of an intellectual pilgrimage site for those who went to the Soviet Union at that time for purposes of ensuring that Lumumba's legacy is maintained. And many individuals are then named for Lumumba, including myself, who is born a year after he was assassinated. And when you go to the streets of many African cities, you find the name Lumumba. And the name Lumumba, as I've already indicated, has become synonymous with that which is good. It is also important to note that Lumumba came from a small ethnic group, the Batetela. He was not from the Valuba, he was not from the Vakongo, but yet he was able during that period to emerge as the most iconic leader at that time, and he was able to transcend ethnicity because Lumumba believed that Congo must be one. Remember, in the Democratic Republic of Congo as we know it, it changed its name to Zaire, and now the Democratic Republic of Congo, there are more than 250 ethnicities or tribes. And knowing that as you do, you can then appreciate how difficult it must have been in the 1960s with limited communication for Lumumba to have succeeded in getting into the hearts of the people, for Lumumba to have been accepted across the region, for Lumumba to have been voted by the people, and for him to have won. That in itself is indicative of the man who he was. And one can dare say that Lumumba is dead. Long live Lumumba, because the likes of him never die. Thank you very much. Our conversation, some may say discourse about the continent of Africa, will continue as it must. But let us say our goodbyes in the knowledge that we'll meet again to continue the conversation.
Livestream effectively reduce dark spots, glycolic biofilm.
Welcome to the day 3 of the June 2023 convening. My task is to introduce Professor Lumumba and moderate the Q&A when time allows for that. Professor Lumumba, as a true
champions of smart investments, Wekeza is here, and today I'm excited to introduce you to one of our hottest deals in KCA Phase 7 plots. This plot project is subdivided into 60 by 100, each going for 450,000 Kenyan shilling. You just need to pay a deposit of 45,000, then balance comfortably within 12 months. All these plots come with ready individual title deeds, give you full ownership security. And as you see, this area is well developed. We have all social amenities on site. We have electricity already on site. We have water, and just 800 meters from here we have the SDR Capita Station. And not to forget the major growth of development of this area, which is the KCA University. It's located just 2 kilometers from here. That means your investment will appreciate faster than ever. Don't wait too long to invest. Book a site visit with us today. We are located in Kitengela, Mugai, Efrata Building, 2nd floor.
Different institutions across the continent of Africa, quite a number of whom are known to me, who are running institutions at the highest level and are senior academics. I'm also aware that there are junior academics who are rising through the ranks, and I am humbled to be invited to share my thoughts with you on what I consider to be very significant, particularly at this stage in the history of Africa. And in order to contextualize my conversation, I will deliver no lecture, because I believe that conversations are a lot more enriching, a lot more realistic, because some of the things I'll be speaking about and speaking to are things that are known to you. And what I'll be doing is possibly to speak about them from a different perspective. When one talks about Pan-Africanism, particularly today, there is the tendency from the one side to romanticize Pan-Africanism, to articulate Pan-Africanism as if it were a magic wand, which, when waved, will solve all African problems, whether they are technological, commercial, political, or otherwise. Then, from another perspective, that there are those who think that Pan-Africanism is merely a curiosity, one that we take refuge in order to massage our egos without more. But Pan-Africanism is serious business. It is serious business because it helps to give us a worldview of what we can do in order to give Africa and Africans a sense of direction and a sense of esteem. And Pan-Africanism must be traced to its origins. And of course, one will not go to the period prior to the interaction between Africa and other civilizations. But there was some element of Pan-Africanism. And those of you who are familiar with the works of Cheikh Anta Diop will be familiar with his very able articulation of the state of Africa before the advent of the colonizers, before the advent of slavery, classical slavery as we know it. But we must, in the nature of things, have what I call a historical cut-off point, particularly when we want to contextualize our discourse in the arena of education generally and higher education specifically. You will be familiar with the very early ideas of the great Sylvester Williams of Antigua and Barbuda in the Caribbean, when the whole idea of Pan-Africanism was gaining traction in the middle part of the 19th century. Fundamentally, as a reaction to the manner in which the African had been treated during slavery and the manner in which the African was being treated during colonization. And in its very embryonic stages, one begins to hear Africans talking about education as they understood it then, as one of the key avenues via which liberation understood broadly could be achieved. That ignorance was not bliss. You wanted to create an army of young men and women whose worldview was informed in a particular direction, the direction of liberating Africans, whether they were in the mother continent, in the continent of Africa, or they were in the diaspora in the Caribbean, or in Latin America, or Europe, or Australia. And you will see the series of meetings that are then held during that period. And specifically, they are iconic interactions, because when the colonizer came into the continent of Africa, education was informed by the colonizer. So that if you went to the former Portuguese colonies, there was a very deliberate effort on the part of the Portuguese to recruit a cadre of individuals who would then be taken to Lisbon to be trained and to go back, whether it was Guinea-Bissau or to Angola or Cabo Verde or to Mozambique or to Brazil, in order to serve the colonial infrastructure. And there are very few recruited in that regard. And when one is talking about education in many countries, one can actually identify them, because they then became political leaders in their various countries and were involved in establishing educational institutions. You can talk about Agostinho Neto in Angola, and you will read his poems to understand how great a mind he was. You will talk about Amilcar Cabral in Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde. You will talk about Eduardo Mondlane in Mozambique. And then you come to the former French colonies, the same. And there are people from La Côte d'Ivoire here. You will know that institutions such as the Sorbonne had specific faculties that were created for the purpose of recruiting young Africans, people like Leopold Sédar Senghor in Senegal, Félix Houphouët-Boigny, and these were individuals who were specifically identified and picked to go for what was fundamentally indoctrination. And of course the British also did the same thing. And that is how you then understand how they were picked, whether you are talking about in countries such as Zambia, they would pick people like Kenneth David Kaunda; in Malawi, Kamuzu Hastings Banda; in Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta; in Tanzania, Julius Kambarage Nyerere, and one would go on and on. And even if you went to the apartheid regimes in South Africa, you will find that individuals such as Nelson Mandela were directed towards Fort Hare. And Fort Hare was deliberately designed to train young people in order to support what was fundamentally a legal regime and a political regime that was meant to perpetuate itself. If you go to Namibia, and I'm mentioning these individuals because later they become the leaders who are involved in dealing with education in Africa. You go to Namibia, Sam Nujoma did not go to school very much, but he had his stint, and Dimba Toifo, and one can count all of them. So that the Africa that you are talking about and the education that you are talking about is an education system that was designed to undergird the colonial system.
Why are you still not making money from trading? It's time to learn what really works. Stay with me for the next 45 seconds, whether you're new to trading or a struggling trader, and I will show you how you can use AI to trade tested and proven strategies in less than 30
Champions of Smart Investments. Wekeza is here, and today I'm excited to introduce you to one of our hottest deals in KCA Phase 7 plots. This project is subdivided into 60 by 100, each going for 450,000 Kenyan shilling. You just need to pay a deposit of 45,000, then balance pay comfortably within 12 months. All these plots come with ready individual title deeds, give you full ownership security. And as you see, this area is well developed. We have all social amenities on site. We have electricity already on site. We have water, and just 800 meters from here we have the SGR Kapiti station. And not to forget the major growth of development of this area, which is the KCA University. It's located just 2 kilometers from here. That means your investment will appreciate faster than ever. Don't wait too long to invest. Book a site visit with us today. We are located in Kitengela, Mugai, Efrata Building, 2nd floor. Good day, champion.
kuuliza nataka shamba located wapi?
Yes, I sell land. Of course, I like to what's the budget.
Yes, I sell land. Nitakuuliza nataka shamba gani? Residential ama commercial? Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza utakuja weekday ama weekend.
Yes, I sell land. Of course, I'll ask her. Okay, it's going to be tell me when I could know.
Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza nataka shamba size gani? Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza kama mwanzo kufanya search. Yes, I sell land. Nitakuuliza unalipa cash ama installment?
Yes, I sell land. Of course, nitakuuliza utandika sell land ni siku gani? Yes, I sell land.
Of course, nitakuuliza utakuja the
The site visit at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
We are located in Kitengela, Moigai Estate, the Fata Building, 2nd floor.
When I come to you, I end up